Entire team is really hurting today, and Chip was taking, various people sort of one at a time. He would take different employees up in the helicopter. He had been with someone else before Jason, and Jamie said he came into work and saw him landing from that and refueling to get back up and take Jason. And
they weren't tourist trips. I want to make that clear. They were learning how to use the equipment up there. So when we had to go live, different people could do it. And sometimes, obviously, for even weather events or community events, a lot of times, for our weather folks to go up and be able to, show you the scene from above, and I know Jason had, I think, shared some pictures on social media a couple weeks back where he had flown over the skyline. He said, this is the best seat in the house to see this city's skyline from our helicopter. And for all of us who've done it, he's spot on.
It is.
It is spectacular to be up there, and knowing you were in capable, safe hands of Chip, behind the wheel there, the controls, you felt as safe as could possibly be. And obviously something went wrong here today, and that's what federal investigators are on the scene right now, and they'll piece all that together, and we'll learn more in the weeks and months ahead. But again, just to underscore what we've heard from several people here today is that Chip was able to avoid the interstate with that helicopter today when he obviously was in distress.
I'm so thankful that those witnesses described what they saw and described it accurately, and were able to let the community know, but really let us know and let his family,
his wife,
know that it could have been so much worse and other families could have been impacted. He could have killed others. And Jason and Chip, our hearts are broken. But in this end, to have people tell us that they watched him make sure that he didn't land on the interstate and hurt anyone else is a very small thing to hold on to, and a little bit of comfort in a very rough day. So appreciate those witnesses and anyone who did see it accurately and can relay that, and for Chief Jennings to say that and to tweet that. And as investigators go through, I know we'll learn more, but at least in these first few hours to know and hear and try and process that, but then to also know, oh my gosh, it could have been worse. It doesn't make it different for Jason or Chip's families or for us at BTV losing our two friends.
I said it earlier, some unknown person is home tonight safely with their family and will enjoy, their time, their holidays, because of what Chip did today, at the controls of that helicopter. We don't know who that person is or was, but they're home, safe and sound tonight. And as the chief said, lives were saved because of his actions here today. The horrible trade-off that we have to deal with is that the two lives lost are close to us. And if you're just tuning in here at 3:42, this was news that happened about 12:20 this afternoon. When we got reports of something that had happened along Interstate 77, shortly thereafter realized that it was a helicopter that had gone down. And then it becomes, well, whose helicopter, where did it come from, and that sort of thing. And we had to try to make contact with them and realized at some point we were not able to, and realized that, yes, it was our helicopter that had gone down here today. And that just the worst possible news that you can imagine to report on are your friends and loved ones that we lost today. And then it became the process of trying to get those families notified in a proper way before we went on the air. And as I mentioned earlier, the other TV stations holding off on that as well. We appreciate them. But we're thinking about them, and we're thinking about their legacies here at WBTV and what they've meant to this television station, not only on air, the product you see, but us as friends and co-workers, and the impact that they've had on our lives, and the reminders now that we're going to have every time we think of certain things. We're going to think of Jason and Chip. And like I said, I think what best we can do about praying and thinking and virtually hugging their spouses, and the kids in Jason's case, is that we just try to carry on and live our lives like they did. Joyful, caring, happy. And that's what they were all of the darn time here. And just don't take any of that for granted. You got people in your life like that, emulate it. Because that's who you want to be around, positive people like that.
Every single day. How you doing, Molly?
Yeah.
Molly, how you doing? How's the weekend? How was your morning? Just every single day. Jamie, what's going on?
Yeah, what you doing this weekend?
What you doing this weekend? Every single time. And then you'd say, oh, Jason, you answer.
Right.
And then you'd say, Jason, what are you doing? And he would have all this stuff. And he would tell you all these things about his kids and the soccer games and if he's skiing or hiking. Very, very family-oriented, him, Jason and Jillian and their 4 children. you know, a little bit older, talking middle school age into getting into college, and they had an active family life full of love and respect. He would put pictures of them out on Instagram and his social media channels. And I think I rushed into work today once I got the news and came in, and you walk in and you instantly saw our whole team in the newsroom, and you knew each person was thinking of the last conversation that they'd just had, because we have conversations with Chip and Jason all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I used to work with them, or I saw them a few months ago. It's an everyday situation that we work very, very closely together. And so when you hear that it's gone so fast with no planning, and of course no one expects it, and you just never know what the day is going to bring, but it happens so fast. It's like I just saw him.
Right.
We just were talking.
Right. Well, we don't work in careers where our lives are obviously typically at risk, right? We're not police officers.
No.
We're not in the service. We just go to work every day and cover news stories and report them out to you. It's, you know, so this just obviously devastates you when something, you know, like this happens, and having to share it publicly with you. And obviously you don't know Chip by name, but you certainly saw his work every single day here on WBTV. But you all know Jason. And I tell you what, exactly, we were talking about what you saw on air. It was Jason in real life, just energetic and smiling and happy all of the time. And it's just such a devastating loss to our community as a whole, to his family, obviously, first and foremost, but this newsroom. This will take some time. We won't ever forget them, obviously, but it's just, you know, the little things every single day, as Molly was pointing out. You know, it was the start of your day, the end of your day, always ended with Jason. It really did. And that's just who he was and who he is. And gosh darn, to not have that through our newsroom every day is just going to be so hard to deal with. And I know that our weather team is devastated as well. As I mentioned, we're a family here inside the building as a whole. And you've got, you know, different, you know, you work closer with certain groups. Obviously, in the weather team, they work very closely together all the time. And their office space is actually our set, where Molly and I are sitting here. Just to our left, you know, is the weather center. So they're always there in groups of 2 or 3, depending on the shift. And, you know, they're always talking and collaborating and laughing sometimes. We'd have to go, hey, we're on the air over here, people. You know, but, you know, they just, I know they loved and cared for each other greatly. You know, obviously, as we all did. So we're thinking of Al, you know, and Rachel and Alicia and Rebecca.
And Eric, you know.
And
Eric is
too.
still a part of our family, even though he retired. Many people who come through this historic building are texting right now. They're emailing. They are still a part of this family even when they retire. And WBTV is a part of who you are. As you go on to other things, no matter if that's another station or you retire with a illustrious career like Eric Thomas did. But you know, the news is certainly spreading right now about Jason and Chip, and BTV is getting a lot of messages, kind messages from many of you. And again, thank you. And I just, if you could work with us as we go through this and take pause, because we're processing it live in front of all of you, and our newsroom is processing it live while trying to get out information and be respectful in the ways that need to happen for the families. And WBTV does do a good job of that with stories. As you said, historically, we can be very proud of sort of how we do that, but this story is different for us personally because they were friends, and we all do love Chip and Jason very much. So I feel like we're all going through stories in our head, Jimmy, aren't you? I was thinking just yesterday, wasn't Jason live out doing like an ice skating?
He was at Carowinds,
and he did a pirouette.
Yeah, that's right.
On live TV.
I don't think he's an experienced ice skater. We could tell that. We were kidding with him about that. Don't fall down. But
he did stay up. He did a little swivel. He was fun.
And he was joking, right? I'm staying away from people because I don't crash into anybody, you know, fall down and hit somebody else. And
5 o'clock.
Yeah, and he was just having fun with it. And we were joking about having some hot chocolate on a chilly night out there. But that was him, right? He loved being out. Not too long ago, I think it was Festival in the Park a couple years back. back, and he was just having a blast out there, right? Trying all the fair food, if you will, you know, and having just a fun time, you know, on the air with that. And I was joking around with him, and that's, you know, the business of the newscasts can, you know, be sort of scripted and you're going from place to place. But when you have those moments, right, and you get to see him and having fun and experiencing the community, and like we mentioned, for him to come home and do all of those things.
Here in Charlotte.
Yeah, you know, you just know it meant the world to him to do that, and he embraced it. And, you know, that's the part that's just so hard for so many people, because obviously he had a connection to so many communities here in the Charlotte area. As I mentioned earlier, I was born in Salisbury, but grew up in Union County and Catawba County. Went to high school, I think, up there. I remember there was a story recently, a year or so back, where he got to go back to, I think, one of the schools, you know, he had went to and meet some of the old teachers. And we, in fact, recently had a professor from North Carolina State. He's the Wolfpacker. He went to NC State, Jason did, and we had one of his professors on. He didn't even know it. He appeared live. We were interviewing him about hurricanes, and he was like, oh, hey, that was my professor. And in the commercial break, we were able to say hello to his professor, you know, and he goes, oh, I remember Jason, a terrific young man, a great student, and all those things, which makes perfect sense, of course. And so, you know, that's just the way he was all the time, having an impact on people, right?
And that's right now what I think we're all processing,
Right.
is the impact on people and how fast things can change and how you never know, and to love those around you and tell them you love them and respect them, and ask them how they're doing. Ask them how they're doing. We're going to go to our Caroline Hicks right now. And Caroline, I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to start by just asking you how you're doing.
Molly, thanks. We're doing okay. And what you were just saying about sharing stories about these people, that's what we've been doing out here on the scene. As you had mentioned, both Chip and Jason both had the brightest smiles. They truly lit up a room. Every day when I would walk from my car into the building of WBTV, I would see Chip. He was hanging around by the helicopter, and he would say, hey, Caroline, when are we going to go fly together? That was what he said every day. He loved what he did. And equally, Jason loved what he did. And one thing I wanted to say is I know how strong of a faith Jason and his entire family have, and I'm grateful that they have that faith that will help them to get through this unimaginable time. It's times like this where your faith is tested, and I'm grateful that they have such a strong faith. But we will miss both of them so incredibly much. I think we're all still in shock right now, but just remembering their smiles and remembering the incredible positive impact that they had on everyone at WBTV and the viewing area, everyone in this entire area. As you mentioned, Jason loved this community so much. And so I know that everyone will continue to remember him for the bright light that he was. We will at WBTV be remembering each of them for the bright lights that they were. And I did want to bring you an update from this scene here, because we are seeing that CMPD is tweeting. They are working to reopen 2 of the lanes here. So I did want to let you guys know that if you're going to be driving in this area, we can see some DOT trucks out here. So it looks like they are working to open 2 lanes of travel on I-77 southbound as soon as possible. Just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that, and we'll continue to let you know when they actually open those lanes, just in case this is part of your drive here tonight. But again, I think we're all in shock. We're all grateful to have known both of these men, because they were amazing, incredible men, such positivity. You can't really say that about everyone, that they just truly were always positive. And I heard you saying that about Jason, but it's so true. I've never met someone, I don't think I've ever met someone as positive as Jason Myers. And Chip also just loved what he did. And we're so grateful to have known both of them.
Not a bad way to be remembered as the most positive person you've ever
Caroline's
ever met.
right, and that's just it. That's what we've been talking about, and we're not just saying that. I mean, that is absolute gospel truth, that's just who he was, the happiest person you were ever going to come across, and never a cross word about anyone or anything. It was just incredible, and that's why this is hitting us all so hard.
And you just said gospel truth, which makes me think of Caroline bringing up Jason and Jillian's faith and their family's faith, and it's really important. And Caroline, thank you for reminding us all. He was very faithful, and they did lean on their faith and talk about their faith. And it's good to remember right now, because sometimes faith needs to be leaned on pretty heavily.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing right now. Our David Wisnett is with us here as well. David, some witnesses to all of this are kind of all telling a similar story, aren't they?
Yeah, Jamie, in fact, there's a woman named Bridget Ann Hampton, and she felt the need to reach out to WBTV. She thought it would be important for us to hear what she saw and what she observed today. She was a witness to the helicopter going down. In fact, she was, from her description, she would have been just about as close as anyone could have been. And I had an opportunity to speak with her just a little while ago, and she was very gracious and invited me into her home and sort of told me about her day. She started out getting in the car to go have her hair done, your typical routine thing. She got on I-77 at Tyvola, and she said just within a few minutes, she saw the helicopter coming down, and she witnessed all of this happening. And I want you to hear something that she told me. Listen to this.
Having had an opportunity to process, I really, really believe he was a hero. Because when you look at the proximity to the highway itself, if that helicopter had come down, it would have been quite a chaotic scene. And so he needs to be applauded because, the presence of mind to veer off is what has been running through my mind, and just seeing that image again and recognizing that he's gone.
That is, those are thoughts that were echoed by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg police chief earlier today about what he was told about Chip's actions there in the last moments. And it's a powerful witness. It's a very powerful testimony. And if you can just give me a second, the last interaction I had with Jason was just a couple of weeks ago. I was reporting some story, and like I'm prone to do sometimes, I did something silly or funny or something. And within about 5 minutes of that happening, he sent me this text message with this wonderful compliment, and it had all these exclamation marks, and I wrote him back and I thanked him, because that just made my day, to think, the meteorologist paid attention and, saw this silly thing and, made a comment on it. And again, to echo Caroline and Molly, conversations I've had with Jason had to do with his faith and growing up in the church. It's just a big part of his life, as it is with mine. And I think a lot of folks are praying for us right now, and I would encourage you to do that, because it's very much needed. But anyway, just tough day. Back to you guys.
Hey, David, when you were talking with Bridget Ann, so grateful that Bridget Ann, you were able to let us know that, because it really does help, I think, our whole WBT family, and certainly Chip and Jason's family. Did she say, because if you're driving down I-77 and you see a helicopter, I would think there'd be a level of surprise from her that it almost didn't land in the middle of the interstate. Did she say anything about that and sort of where she thought it might be going, and then to be floored that it didn't hurt others?
Yes, she did. In fact, she said when she first noticed it, that was her initial thought, was that it was going to go down right there, right on the interstate. She thought that it could have easily hit her car. And so you heard her say there that what she noticed was that she used the word veer. To her, she saw the helicopter move a little farther over from the interstate into the grass. And she made a note of that. That's what she noticed about it. And that's one of the reasons that she wanted to reach out to us, because that's made an impression on her that was part of what was happening there as the helicopter was going down. And she described, I'm sure later you can hear some more from her. She had a lot of things to say about this, but she was telling me she knew that it was in trouble because of the speed with which it was coming to the ground. And she knew that, and the movements. And she, it's just she said she's having a hard time processing what she saw. But again, it seemed like the thing that really stayed with her was her perception that the helicopter moved to avoid causing further damage, or in her words, causing a lot of chaos on the interstate.
David's, I think, our longest tenured on-air person right now. And, well, David, you know we love you to death, and we appreciate you. And we lean on you on times like this, too, because of your faith. And we're going to all lean on that faith, aren't we, over the next weeks and months ahead?
Yeah, and as ridiculous as social media is, I've got to say that the way that people have shown this outpouring of support for this television station and Jason's family and Chip's family has really been overwhelming in a positive way. You know, there's so much bad stuff, and yet I've seen so many people saying, I'm praying for them, I'm praying for their family, I'm praying for your TV station, I'm praying for you, you know, all that stuff. And I know that stuff matters. It makes a difference. You can feel it. And I know people are doing that, and there's strength in that. And so if you're praying for us, I just want you to know that it's appreciated and it's noticed. But really, be on your knees for Jason's family and for Chip's family. They're going to need to feel that comfort and to feel that strength. They're just going to have. Now, we are too, but, you know, obviously they're the family. They're going to need it immediately. And I just, again, yeah, it's amazing to get that support. It just is.
You're right. You know, social media can actually do a lot of good, and there can be a lot of bonding through that and a lot of connection through that when used in the right ways. And so, David, you said it well. Thank you to this community right now who in these instant moments, you know, it's been 4 hours and most of us are just processing and trying to figure out where to go from here. And so to feel that support in words and in people sharing kindness, that is a really strong comfort to many of us, and at some point, hopefully, Julian and Chip's wife can also feel that. So, David Wisnett, you are our David Wisnett, and we are so grateful and thankful to have you with us.
Thank you, David. We have crossed over into the 4 o'clock hour right now, and we just want to kind of reset everything for you if you're just getting home and turning on the television this afternoon. We are on the air still because of the two faces, the two names you see there on your screen right now, Chip Tayag and Jason Myers. They were aboard our helicopter Sky3 this afternoon, shortly after 12 o'clock today, when that helicopter went down in the southern part of Mecklenburg County, just off Interstate 77 south, near Nations Ford. There were no survivors. They were the only two aboard the helicopter. Nobody else on the ground was hurt. We are hearing that is because of the evasive measures taken by our helicopter pilot, Chip, who's been a contract employee for WBTV for a number of years. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but he's been here a long time. Jason's also been with us now for several years. And as we mentioned earlier, Molly, this was his dream job. He was coming home. He was from this area, had worked in other places around the country, and he got the job here at WBTV. And their smiles right there you see on those pictures is how they live their lives every single day here at WBTV and in our community. And we're hurting bad.
We are hurting, and our chief meteorologist, Al Conklin, is certainly hurting, Jamie, and we want to welcome Al here in to the desk and the studio, and most importantly, Al, the conversation. Jason and you were very good friends, and thank you for being here.
Well, honestly, I didn't know where else to go or what else to do.
Right.
My family, first of all, let
me give you a hug, buddy.
You know that. Molly.
We love you.
You guys are doing a great job. Yeah, I went out to lunch with my son and my wife. They've already left for the coast for Thanksgiving. I'm going to meet up with them tomorrow, and just a regular old Tuesday, and then this happened. So I'm home by myself, and I just don't know what to do. So I felt like I needed to be here with you guys.
Come to family, right?
With my team, right.
Exactly right.
We are family. I spoke with Eric and Paul and so many of our good friends and our former colleagues. You know, we're all teammates. When you leave this place, you're still family, you know?
Yep.
And we're all in a little bit of shock, you know? Obviously, you don't expect something like this. And that's kind of what I was thinking about today is that, my point is that, when Eric retired, I was named chief meteorologist, and the station asked me to come to nights. You know, kind of was the logical thing to do.
Sure.
But because we do things in a family way, they knew that would upset my family life. Because I've been in the morning with John and Christine and Mary and Abby, and for so long that they said, you know what, stay where you are.
Stay there, yeah.
It's more important you be with your family. We'll figure out a way forward with Rachel and Jason, and we're doing great with them. And part of my routine every morning at 2 o'clock when I'm driving in, I don't listen to the radio. I say my prayers. Nobody's going to call me. Nobody's going to bother me. So I have quiet time with the good Lord. And you pray for things like your family and your coworkers, and that you're going to be a good leader and do the best that you possibly can at your job. They don't teach you this kind of day in meteorology school. 37 years, they never teach you how you lose a teammate in an instant, or teammates, 2 of them. And but I'm going to tell you, Jason, phenomenal forecaster. I feel so bad for his family right now, and I know we all do. My phone is on fire like everybody else's. I want to thank everybody that's praying for us, because as David Wisnett said, we need your prayers right now, and his family needs them more than any. We're not immediate family, but we are all family here. We throw that term around, but we don't loosely. Even our competitors have reached out to me. This is a very competitive business, folks. You know that. They've reached out because they feel the loss for us.
They've helped us today, in fact.
They really have helped
cover the
us.
story,
So how are you guys doing?
Processing, to do it on live television. And as we were talking about, we kind of knew, we knew what was going on, right? But until the family could get that word, obviously we were going to have to hold that in. So to hold that in for 2 or 3 hours until we could finally, let the public know has just been devastating. But as we've been pointing out, Al, and you know this as well as anyone, the Jason you saw on television is the Jason Myers when the camera wasn't on. Always up, always smiling, always talking about his family.
That's exactly right. And Chip's the same way. Chip, we're all WBTV, but Chip really, there you see him on the left, consummate pro. 90% of the time, he was out in the hangar or out on the pad, tinkering, working, checking, triple checking.
Yeah.
But Jason sat right here next to me, and that's one of the hardest things. I walked in the door here just this afternoon, and Jason and I had lockers right next to each other. His jacket's sitting there.
Wow.
But he is. It's tough right now. It just really is. But you're so right. Talk about 2 positive people right there. Yeah. And I know a lot of people have said this, and I just want to echo that. These guys were consummate pros, but they were also just genuinely great guys to be around and have as teammates. You could not have asked for a better teammate. When a job opens at WBTV, you literally get thousands of people who want to come here. And so we did our homework when I was personally involved, as was Eric and our management here, about recruiting Jason. And he wanted, like you said, Molly, he wanted to come home. This is home. His parents are still in this area. He grew up watching this station. This is a dream job. And not everybody gets to do that, but he wanted to be here. And we have a recycle bin in the Weather Center because we go through a lot of paper. This guy every single day would put down what looks like chicken scratch to everybody else, but that's how much he paid attention to detail.
Absolutely.
When I think of him, it's always that bright smile. Hey, buddy, how you doing? And he's genuine, not just, hey, how you doing? He meant it. He wanted to know what was going on in your life, and he would share with you what's going on in his life. But each and every day, he took so much pride and passion in getting the forecast right. And,
Is that a forecast? Are those numbers? That's the
his notes
temperatures and notes from yesterday?
That's from yesterday.
And
that's from yesterday.
Well, and he'd walk around in the afternoons after you had left. He'd have his clipboard, right, and all these notes, and he'd stop by everybody's desk. First of all, say hello. That was always the first thing. You want to know how you were doing first, and then we'd get into the business of the day and the weather and all those kinds of things. But he was, like I say, meticulous with the notes and everything else, and sharing all that information. It's just the way he was.
Yeah, he really was, and he was a guy that really paid attention to detail. Sometimes we would get into friendly arguments about a degree or two.
Right.
And I made a comment to him just last week and said, I used to say nobody was good enough to know the difference between 71 and 72. I said, but Jason, you might be good enough at that because he put so much time. And just, as a team, I've spoken with Alicia Wilson and obviously Becca, who did a phenomenal job under the circumstances. That's a 25-year-old young lady right there, more like a daughter to me than a coworker. And Rachel. As chief meteorologist, like I said, they don't prepare you for a day like this, but this is more about just seeing how everybody's doing right now. And yeah, we're all in a state of shock right now. And as I said to Eric, we'll get through this. I just don't know how right now. I honestly don't know how. That's not even a fair thought to have right now. But I'm just, for his family and and the two families involved, my heart just breaks.
I don't think we need to know how,
Yeah.
how Jamie said earlier, give some grace, and
Yeah,
we're all processing and learning.
Yeah.
Because we were talking with Jason and Chip hours ago, and so here
Right,
we are
Molly.
now. And
It's just,
we mentioned earlier Jason's coming to the community, Al, and
Oh,
this past
gosh.
weekend he was at a March of Dimes event.
yeah, I was supposed to be
Al
there.
was supposed to be there with his wife Tracy as well, and Jason and Jillian were there, and my husband Wes and I were there, and Jillian and Jason talked to Wes mostly. I was sort of up doing some
You were
stuff
doing
with the
your
event,
thing, right.
but on the way into work, I called Wes and told him and said, I've got bad news, and here's what happened. And he got really emotional. He said, I just talked about their kids for 2 hours with them on Saturday night because they were so family oriented. But yet Saturday night went out to help raise money for preemies, be a part of a community event. And it was just, I hope people understand, and we've talked about it a little bit before, but if you are just happening to tune in and hear us, facts, meteorologist, accuracy, formal, have to have that all down pat, but also human in the community,
Right.
caring, wanting to get involved, raising your hand every time to be a volunteer. Jason reading books to kids in schools, doing the visits,
Yeah,
bringing his wife along, wanting to have everybody together.
Yeah, Jason was that kind of a person. And again, our jobs, I sit at this desk, you sit here, you sit there, and John and Mary, we all have our slots. When we leave here, and you guys know this so well, we're part of the community. We have to be part of the community. That's not just delivering weather reports and traffic reports and news reports. Part of being a broadcaster is to being out there in this community and getting to know it. And these two gentlemen loved this community. Their families did as well. They embraced it. And you may not know Chip because he was behind the scenes kind of a person. The people here on TV. For every one of us, there's 6 or 8 people behind the scenes that work so hard to bring us the news. And Chip was one of those guys. And Jason, him, and he just, like you said, Molly, he just embraced all of what it meant to be a meteorologist. He left a chief's job in Kentucky to be here because he wanted to be here, and he wanted to raise his kids in this community just like you do and like I do and you do, Jamie.
Yeah.
And so it's just...
he jumped because the job doesn't come open very often, as you mentioned, and he wasn't going to pass it up at all. And we were talking about this earlier. Alex brought it up, as a new father, a new parent, and he would ask Jason questions about, being a parent and those kinds of things. And our kids, various ages as well. And we all kind of go through
We all went through it. That's
we go
right.
through those stages of life where we lean on each other. And I know his kids obviously meant the world to him, playing sports.
Soccer, yeah.
Soccer field,
Yeah. 2 weeks ago when Nicole came blowing through, he wasn't here on Friday. That Friday when the storm was raging, he was in Savannah, and I said, it's important. Go down there. We got this. And there's 4 of us here.
See, that's the
you need to be
family.
in Savannah, and you need to bring your kids, and you need to go down there and do the soccer thing. It's rain, it's wind. We'll get through it. We always do.
Love that you said that to him as a chief meteorologist and kind of
I know he felt bad.
Right, because he wants to be here,
He wanted to be here.
But you saying no, be there. And now, knowing he was there...
It's another memory that
It's
they have as a
another memory
family.
they have in
And that's the
Savannah
thing,
soccer field.
he loved the outdoors around here, and obviously no better place than the Carolinas, right, to get outside and hike and bike and ski, and all of those things.
And that's how you learn the intricacies of this place. But I don't know, there's something cathartic about being here. This is the best I have felt since about 12:05.
We can smile about his memory.
I've cried 1,000 tears today. I know my face is a mess. I feel so at home, though, being here with you guys.
It makes sense you
talking
came
about
here.
our coworkers. Yeah.
You didn't know where to go, you came here.
I really didn't know where else to go.
I
I really want to be here with you guys, and also just to really see like I said, for every one of us out here, there's 6 or 8 people in that newsroom right now. And we're all, from top floor to bottom, everybody is hurting right now.
You said people don't know Chip, and you guys don't. He was a helicopter pilot. He was a contracted employee for BTV, but had been here for years and years.
Long time.
Yeah. Like he was a WBTV employee. He would come into the newsroom all the time. We all knew him. Hey, Chip. Hey, Jamie and Chip spoke this morning.
Yeah.
But you did see his work.
Yeah.
And you saw his work all the time. Jamie, you made this point a couple hours ago before when we had first announced the names and confirmed the names of the deaths. Chip's work was everywhere, all over our newscasts. So you might not have known Chip, but you did see his talent and you saw his contributions. And he's a part of our family, and our hearts break for Chip's wife and their family as well. It's Jason is who we know, and you guys know, and you got to meet. And Chip is just as much a part of our family as well. And so want to make sure everyone knows we are grieving the loss of 2 friends today, and 2 families will be helping move forward as our newsroom goes ahead with this.
You know, and I think to go back to what David Wisnett said here just a little bit ago about maybe 20 minutes ago, you know, we've heard so many of our viewers and our competitors, our former family members here at the station say, hey, we're praying for you. We are genuinely praying for you. The first thing I did was text my prayer group, you know, on my phone and said, hey, we need God's strength right now. Jason was a man of faith. He is strong in his faith. So as passionate as he was about his chicken scratch here, you know, figuring out the forecast, whether it's going to rain or not, at the end of the day, it's just weather, right? It's our jobs and we take it seriously, but he was so strong in his faith. He was stronger in his faith than he was in his forecasting, and he was a heck of a forecaster.
Yeah.
I think he grew up in a church as well. His father, I think,
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think he was a pastor at a church, and it was just a real deep part of who Jason was, and his family certainly is.
If I'm not mistaken, his father is either an active or a retired Methodist minister up in Rowan County, and I could be mistaken about that, and if I am, forgive me, but deep-rooted faith and believed in prayer.
Yeah.
And just pray for his family and pray for all of us and Chip's family as well, because we're going to need it to get through this. We're just in a state of shock right now, as you would be as well. You know, and the station's been here a long time.
Yep.
We know we got a lot of people on our side. We're usually on your side. Tonight we kind of need you on our side, if I'm not asking too much.
Well said. Just last night we were talking about this earlier, about what he was doing for us on the air. And in fact, we can show you an example of his happy and energetic, amazing person that Jason is.
Yeah, we spoke to him less than 24 hours ago right here on air, Jamie, at the opening of Carowinds Winterfest. And Jason was so excited for the holidays and seeing people so happy with their families, and he loved to convey that to all of us on live TV. So this is just from yesterday.
That's where we find meteorologist Jason Myers. All right, Jason, sub 50 already. Maybe grab some hot chocolate, huh?
Exactly. A little chilly out here, but a lot of fun. I mean, everybody out here, of course, has smiles. We've got the festive music going on. I'm out here trying to stay up. I'll say, here's some tips for ice skating. Jamie, I think you would probably be really good at this, right? But the key is to not get too close to people that might drag you down on their way down. I'm going to try to do a little trick for you guys. There we go. So, yeah, we're having fun out here, of course, with the holiday music, and a lot of folks are having a great time out here. A lot of smiles going on, and haven't fallen yet. So I probably better get off the ice skates while I have a good track record here. But back to you guys in the warm studio. A lot of fun out here.
The pirouette there, well done. Yeah, you stayed upright. That is the key.
Come on out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on out. Let's go ice skating, okay, guys?
Push and glide. Push and glide. You'll be okay.
That is fun to get the families out there. They will bring you down.
Oh, that's it right there. Benjamin's push and glide.
You're from Wisconsin. He's right. From North Carolina. We
he was leading on the hockey player from years gone by. But that was him right there, right?
And that, you never know, right? You never know. That was yesterday.
I know.
And we're all laughing and joking. And, just remember, tell those you love them. And respect, and tell them that you respect them, and give them a hug when you can. And Al, I love when you came on set and said, first, let me ask how you guys are doing and give you a hug, because we didn't know yesterday what was going to happen today. We didn't know this morning.
We didn't know this morning. Like I said, I have a routine. I say my prayers 2:30 every morning coming down the Brookshire Freeway. And, you just don't know. You don't know. And so today we're grieving and we're praying for Chip's family and for Jason's family. And, we're family here, and this is what we do. We're going to get through it somehow, but right now it's wrong. We got to laugh a little bit. I'm so glad you played that clip, but it's tough. It's really.
But that's what we were talking about with Jason. As a goodness, I have never heard that guy say a cross word about anyone or anything ever. He would come into that newsroom, and Molly and I were joking about what's he running for? Is he apologizing? Because you know what I mean? He's always just how you do it, shaking hands and always making a touch point with you every single day.
Just a really, energetic and passionate, but in such a positive way.
Right.
Always got a smile. As you said, that's a great That's a great description. Never a cross word. Never, nothing disparaging to ever say about anybody. Just so positive and always, for me as a chief, I've been here almost 30 years, but I've been chief for one. He would come up to me and say, "Hey, I am a former chief in a smaller market, but what can I do to help you?"
Yeah. He always said that. What can I do to help you? He
Sincerely wanted to reach out and help, and he was a huge help. More and more I would lean on him because he is. For a lot of years I was Eric Thomas's wingman. I need a wingman, and not to say that Becca and Alicia and Rachel aren't helpful. They certainly are. They're great.
Of course.
They're considerably younger than Jason was, and he had that experience already. And so I really did lean on him quite a bit. I'm just so sad. And Chip, consummate professional,
right.
Our helicopter pilot. And again, he was not technically an employee of WBTV. It was a subcontract. But listen, the guy was here every day for I don't know how many years. Many years.
Yeah.
He's one of us.
Yeah.
We all know Chip.
WBTV family.
That's right.
Witnesses keep telling us
oh my God.
that the pilot, that Chip, was a hero, Jamie. They just keep saying that over and over.
Yeah, this is pilot, Chip Tayag, right here. He came to WBTV, we can tell you more, in 2017. He's been a pilot for more than 20 years. When we say the WBTV family is grieving, we are truly a family. So whenever you saw Chip in the parking lot, on the chopper launch pad, I just saw him this morning, as a matter of fact, and that's what he did. He smiled and he waved at me as he was getting ready to take off again. He is survived by his wife. And matter of fact, and now you were alluding to this, safety was paramount for him all of the time. And that was an interview we had actually done for him for On Your Side Tonight. I believe it was after the Kobe Bryant loss. And, just talking about that and what helicopter pilots go through to make sure everything is, working as it should, all of those sorts of things. So he was a great wealth of knowledge, obviously, that we leaned on in those kinds of situations as well. But always happy, always waving at you. Yeah. Again, always making you feel seen, right, every single day around here. And just crushes you.
And for Chip, that's the weather center right there, and that's my office right there, right? And that's what's Jason's.
It's not far.
It's literally 15 feet back here. So that's why we're always zipping in and out, and every once in a while when we're late, you see us on camera coming up here late. Right. Chip's office was 50 yards that way. It's outside. It was the parking lot. Then we have, our hangar where we housed Sky3 and, the pad. Constantly working. Envision somebody that's got an antique vehicle that they are so much in love with that they don't want to see a speck of dust on. That's the way he treated Sky3. He was the consummate pro about just making sure everything was operational and because you never know. With Sky3, he's like, in a lot of ways like a first responder. Hey, we need you to go, and there's not maybe in an hour or so. No, we need you to go right now. And he would always be Johnny on the spot. That's why you might not have known his name, but you knew his work.
And always checking in on the weather, too, because obviously that was paramount for whether he could actually fly safely or not. So he was always checking in with you guys.
That's right. It was always about safety. That's when I would have more interaction with him than anything. We would cross paths. He would come in the morning, just like you do, and Molly in the afternoon. And we would just cross paths. And, he'd ask, hey, the ceiling's pretty low right now. When do you think that's going to lift? In other words, when will it be safe for me to fly? We're socked in low clouds right now. Chip, I don't see that for at least 2 hours. You may have breaking news, but you're not going anywhere.
Right, and he wouldn't risk it.
Because he was
never
safe.
Risked.
Always checking, and he was managing all of that, and we wouldn't send up the chopper if he said not to. I mean, it was always what Chip said and what Chip decided.
End of word.
End of word.
Yeah.
End of word.
He was it. Hey, I know you said you talked to Eric. I talked to Eric as well. How are Eric and Rachel and Alicia, and again, Becca did a heck of a job live TV today. How's everyone doing? Have you been able to talk to the rest of our team and our family?
It's tough. It's really tough when you think about it. Rachel, in particular, works side by side because, yes, I'm the chief, but I work with Becca and in the morning, and Alicia sort of bridges the gap. But Rachel and Jason would come up with this chicken scratch here of your forecast. This is the way we kind of do it. Everybody has their own style, but this is the way Jason did it. He would write out his numbers and figure out which way we're going with the forecast, and they'd go back and forth. Rachel's really having a hard time with this. She's got a lot of faith, so she's praying through this, and Becca has really done a great job, trying to work through just the traffic, because we know people are trying to get around, and for somebody her age, I could not have been more impressed. Such a pro. And Alicia had the day off, but I did I called her, and I hadn't had a chance to reach back out to circle back with her, but I will. We're all having a hard time.
Yeah, and I know Eric was in tears, and I talked to him earlier today too, and he was here obviously when Jason got hired. Tell us more about that a little bit. I don't know if you remember when he came for an interview, what that was like and what that meant for him to come back to the Charlotte area.
Yeah, when we say come back, Jason was raised up in the Salisbury area, so even though he had worked in Richmond and then had gone over into Kentucky to become a chief meteorologist in a smaller market in Lexington, in a lot of ways, our careers kind of mirrored. I was in Miami, but I came to Charlotte. So I'm like, wait a minute, Miami's a much bigger market. Sometimes in football, punt is a good play, right? You say, you know what, let me go backwards a little bit in market, but come up in stature a little bit, in a different role. He was chief meteorologist in Lexington, but this was home, and it meant more for him to raise his family here with his grandparents, with their grandparents, and to be on a station that he grew up watching. I mean, you're just checking off boxes here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that guy was not going to be denied that job. He blew everybody else out of the water in terms of interviewing because he was exactly who he was. Positive, energetic, passionate, each and every day. And Eric and I and our management team at the time just said, I think that's the guy. It wasn't even close, really, honestly.
Right.
And again, this is, I got here 30 years ago. This was market 33, meaning this, New York's number 1, LA's number 2. This is now market 21. When we have a job opening here, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people that apply for these jobs. So it is an extremely competitive business. That guy just separated himself. Yeah. Jason, he separated himself. And so, and he was earning it each and every day, that just reinforcing in our minds that we made the exact right hire.
Same way, that's why he came in every day and basically said hello with a handshake, and you're like, Jason, we know each other. Buddy, we're friends. We don't need to shake hands, but he did it out of love, and he did it because we called him the mayor. He was just so happy to see you.
I always said, you're running for office. In a kind, in a joking, in a loving way. He pressed the flesh all the time.
And he knew it. He was doing like...
Yeah, he would stop. He didn't mean just, hey, how you doing, going down the hallway. He would stop. How are you doing?
No, he looked in the eye, right? And
right.
Think about it, right? You've landed what you've always wanted. I mean, he just embraced that every single day here at WBTV. There was nowhere else he wanted to be. Like you said, now his kids could be with his parents, and all those milestones that are going on, every other year, right, with the kids at that age, and so much is going on. And I mean, for Jillian and all of them, it's just, there are no words that we can come up with that's going to, make them feel any better at this time. And I'm just thinking about them, and the holidays are here and all of that. And like we were talking about, none of us expected this today. She didn't either, obviously, as the day started, that, we aren't firefighters and police officers and in the military service where we risk our lives for our jobs. So it's just devastating when something like this happens.
Yeah, it really is. My pastor was kind enough to give me a call on the way over here just to check on me, and said, it always seems, I know this is weird, it seems harder when the holidays are right around the corner. And I know Jason and I talked about walking with Storm 3 tomorrow night with Rachel and Becca in the parade. And I was really looking forward to that because, we work opposite sides of the day. We would see each other kind of in passing, or we would text or email, hey, watch Thursday. I think this is and he was always kind of looking to the next thing. What's going to happen next? And so I'm going to just miss that. But it's such a, it shouldn't be any harder today than if it were some other month. But,
of course, right.
As I said when I came on here 28 minutes ago, I just had left my family, who's on their way down to the coast, because I was going to meet up with them for Thanksgiving. So your mind is, already thinking about, what we're doing, a Thanksgiving Eve parade tomorrow night, right? And it's just, my mind's just not thinking about this, and it makes it just harder for me to process right now.
Chief Jennings said that, CMPD Chief Tony Jennings. He said, I mean, it's a tough week to have this happen. It's tough no matter when, but this is the week that it's really hard because
we come together,
we're coming together, and you're being grateful, and you're thankful, and you're with family and friends in theory. And so that's really hard for the two people who died in this helicopter crash. He did not release the identities at that point. We have had a lot of statements come in. Governor Cooper sent condolences, and I think the Panthers and Charlotte FC are still scheduled to hold their annual Christmas tree lighting outside, but they did release a statement ahead of the event tonight saying, quote, "Our thoughts are with our friends at WBTV on the loss of Jason Myers and Chip Tayag. We will have a moment of silence at tonight's tree lighting in their honor." So to Charlotte FC and the Panthers, thank you for that, and to all the condolences. And I know your phones are like, it just, but
I had to turn it off, to be honest
it's,
with you.
we are feeling it and we appreciate it, and it is a community.
For them to do that too, I mean,
Well, and that's
a
the
big
kind of
statement.
event right there
The tree
Yeah.
lighting.
that
Jason would have been at. I know. In fact,
Right.
he might have been slated to be there. I don't know.
I don't know, but if it's not that, it would have been a parade.
The
If it
next
wasn't
thing.
that, it would have been where y'all were Saturday night with the March of Dimes event, or some other, or your kid's school, or somewhere, some fundraiser. He would have lent his name to, because he was that kind of a guy, just a genuine person. And what you see is what you get.
And those statements mean a lot to our WBTV family and our newsroom, and hopefully, to Jason and Chip's family when they're in a position where maybe they can process some of that. But they do help, and thank you. And we, all of us, appreciate the community that's reaching out, because it is really tough. It's really tough. You don't ever plan to cover a helicopter crash where your two friends are on board and you're figuring it out on live TV, and a newsroom is processing how to most respectfully honor what happened while relaying the information about traffic and delays and the police staging area and the federal investigators behind the scenes. So we really thank Charlotte, the community, these statements, and just people reaching out in the ways that you can. But even if you don't reach out, send a good thought. Send a good thought to Jason and Chip's family. Please send a really good thought to them.
as Al and David before him mentioned, we'll take prayers. The Myers family, Tayag family, they're going to take all the prayers you can throw their way as well. And as David was so eloquently pointing out, we feel it. You feel it. You feel it when you post on social media, or just your prayers in general. They get through, and they do make a difference, and they do help us get through it.
It's a source of strength for us,
Yeah.
we need it because we're an extended family. These two gentlemen, their families definitely need it, but you hear us throw that around a lot here, and I know. I'm sure they're kind of family-like at the other stations too. But we really do mean it. I mean, we know each other. We've known each other for a long time. And even those that were here and have moved on, we still keep in touch with because we care about one another. We genuinely, in most instances, we love one another. We know each other's families, and so this is, it's extremely hard. It really is, because we know two families are really hurting tonight. And so, I kind of made mention about this before. I was on the team probably 18 years ago that developed On Your Side, and how trust me, I know it's a marketing slogan. A lot went into that. Tonight we kind of need, we need all of you to be on our side, and those families need it too.
A little bit of the unfathomable today. A little bit of the unfathomable.
We'll just reset for just a moment here, 4:30 now, if you're just getting home and turning on the television. It's been a tough day, not only for the community, but for us here at WBTV, for two families that lost loved ones here today. Shortly after 12 o'clock today, our Sky3 crashed at this scene right here. This is Interstate 77. Those are southbound lanes going away from you. The interstate closed still at this point, perhaps getting closer to reopening at least a couple of lanes now. In that grassy area between the two blue signs is where Sky3 went down earlier this afternoon. We scrambled as soon as we heard what was going on to figure out whose helicopter this was, and the horrific news began to get to us that it was ours. And obviously we knew who was inside that helicopter. We had to wait, though, for a while and hold that news in and try to report the news to you, and the traffic impacts, the community impacts that were affecting many people today trying to get home for the holidays or get some last-minute errands run, et cetera. We had to hold that in until we made sure that the family members had been properly notified, and that happened, gosh, what was it, about an hour or so ago? My time is kind of slipping away from me here. So the interstate was shut down. We just got that word that it was indeed Jason Myers and Chip Tayag, our helicopter pilot, who were killed this afternoon in that crash scene. Looks like the wreckage may be gone or at least partially removed. but it looks like the interstate's getting close to reopening here. A couple of things were happening here today. Highway Patrol and Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police were handling traffic. They were securing that area for federal investigators to get on the scene to begin their work to determine what led to the helicopter coming down this afternoon in that area. By all accounts that we have heard from witnesses, you heard it from Chief Jennings earlier today, from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police, that Chip is a hero in this. That he was able to divert that helicopter away from the interstate and brought it down in that grassy area.
CMPD is just texting right now to Jamie. They're about to open those 2 lanes. We saw that looked like the cones were there, but they didn't have any cars on them yet. So if you are hearing this, we're getting that information live. The 2 lanes have just now reopened on I-77 southbound for commuters. So please drive cautiously. There are still workers on the scene. There will still be workers on the scene. We will hit nightfall in the next 90 minutes or so. That's even more important to be cautious. We know you're trying to get to Thanksgiving Day holidays and drive and be places, but please be patient. Give some grace. We don't need anything else to happen in this situation. It's miles of I-77 south that had been blocked out, like about 10. Right. So I'm not sure if it's all lanes. You would assume if it's 2 lanes around the accident scene that the rest would slowly open up to all 4, at least a mile or 2 above it. But federal investigators have been here. The FAA and the NTSB are in charge of this investigation. We did hear from CMPD earlier and Charlotte Fire, and North Carolina State Highway Patrol was also on scene, but they are more just sort of helping with the traffic at this point, and they were here to immediately respond until the FAA could get here, and we had found out they were here about 3 hours after the accident. Again, it happened right after noon. But that comment, Jamie, that you mentioned from Chief Jennings, this is the detour from NCDOT that you're seeing.
I think now they're mentioning the lanes are now open. The 2
Yeah.
right lane and entrance ramps, Tyvola and 77 South. Those are going to stay closed, though, until tomorrow morning, so keep that in mind. Tyvola is not an area you're going to be able to get off, so if you had a Costco run planned tonight, that's not going to happen, at least through that intersection, so keep that in mind.
And tomorrow being the actual busiest day of travel for the year. But the
Go ahead,
thing
I'm
that
sorry.
Chief, no, you're fine, I'm glad you said that. Chief Jennings had mentioned, as you said, about the hero, and I wrote the quote down that he said in that press conference. He said the pilot, and this is before we knew it was Chip, before we had confirmed with law enforcement it was Chip, and before Chip's family knew it was Chip. But he said the pilot made diversionary moves to avoid hitting cars, heroic moves to avoid putting anyone else in danger. That pilot is a hero in my eyes. And that was from our CMPD Chief, Johnny Jennings. So in that moment, we knew it was Chip.
Yep.
We could not relay it was Chip until we knew all next to kin knew, obviously. And I think Johnny Jennings, Chief Jennings knew it was a WBTV pilot.
Sure.
And he was saying in that moment, this guy saved other lives. And please take that into account. He made some heroic moves.
Matter of fact, before you jump in, Alan, that we do have a witness kind of backing all of that up, and we can play that for you right now. Oh, my apologies. I was told we had an interview ready to go, but my apologies for that. But
Well, there were several eyewitnesses who said exactly they saw certain moves that indicated to them that Chip, in the final seconds, was in fact trying to avoid what I can only imagine. He had to have known this.
Right.
If you're looking for the safest place to.
Sure.
I can recall one time going to a school visit in Lincoln County, and we ran into a deep patch of fog, and we literally had to ditch. And these pilots look for where is the best place under these circumstances to go. Knowing Chip and knowing the consummate professional he was, I've got to feel like this could have been, as horrific as this is and as hurtful as it is for us and for the families involved here, God only knows what we would be talking about.
There was no fire.
No.
There was no other injuries. There were no other injuries. And again, hearts breaking, and Jason's family and Chip's family. The chief made a point of saying this was the accident scene. This was the crash scene, and nothing else was impacted. And when you have the chief of your police department at this accident where huge response and interstate shut down for 12 miles, 10 miles, whatever it was, and federal investigators taking over, making a point to say that's the only area and no one else was hurt and nothing else was impacted and there was no fire. That's saying that out of respect and awe.
Well, you know, that stretch of road, there aren't a lot of options in there.
No.
It's very narrow. The interstate's, you know, there's really no median to speak of. There's, you know, one probably grassy area. I can't think of another one in that stretch, honestly. It's all parking lots and office buildings and wooded areas.
And
so
high tension lines run along there
exactly
as well.
right.
I mean, you know, who knows where this could have gone. So the fact that it was down where it was, again, we take the chief at his word, right?
Yeah,
He's a hero.
And think about it this way. I mentioned it, you know, it earlier. If you happen to be going through that area between 12 and 12:30 today, you're home safe with your family because of what Chip did, and kept that car or that helicopter off of cars on the interstate today. We don't know who you are. You don't know who you were, but because of Chip's actions today, somebody else is going to go home to their family today. So it's just a reminder to all of us to be thankful for the moments we have and to hug your family and loved ones tonight, because you don't know what the next hour is going to bring, you know.
If you did happen to see it, we have interviewed one woman, Bridget Ann, who did, and she gave really great perspective. She is the one who called 911, one of many, I'm assuming, who called 911. If you did see it, the chief did put out a plea to say, hey, federal investigators, once they arrive on scene, he spoke before they were here, they are here now, they would want to talk to witnesses in any sort of situation like this. They would want to talk to people who saw it with an accurate memory of exactly what they saw. So if you did see it and you haven't reached out to law enforcement, they can certainly hook you up with the FAA and the NTSB to talk about that, because they will be looking for witnesses. Sometimes it's easy to get put out your thoughts on Facebook or put it out in social media. That's fine if that's what you saw. Just make sure you're telling the people who are investigating as well, please.
It's a long process to put all this together. Obviously, we know about the traffic impacts. We reported on that. Federal investigators will be on scene to sort all of this stuff out, and that's going to take weeks and months before we learn anything more about that.
It's now 4:40. You guys have been on the air now for a couple hours straight without commercial. How are y'all doing?
I'll let you go first.
I just keep thinking of Jillian and the 4 kids.
That's it, and Chip's
That's
wife
Jason's,
too.
yeah.
And I, you know, I saw my wife this morning. You know what I mean? And I'll, you know, hopefully go home and
God willing, you'll see him tonight.
I'm gonna make it back home tonight and be able to see my family this Thanksgiving. And like Molly said, you will never get his Instagram account with his pictures of that family. They're just so gorgeous and beautiful. You know, idyllic pictures of a family, right? And I'm laughing because I'm smiling about it, because they were always experiencing things together. I think there were some pictures recently. They were on, like you said, Savannah on a soccer trip, because that's who Jason was. Right? Yeah, right. He's always doing stuff with his wife, anniversaries, birthday.
A lot of joy.
Always.
All the time.
It was about moments, right? It's about moments with the people you love, and that's what life is about. And he lived that every single day, and we witnessed it here, because like I said, the first thing he did was ask how you're doing.
Right.
You know, and you can take that for granted. It's real easy to do that, and just don't.
It is hard. I think a lot of people, no matter what your job might be, if you work out of the home and you have a career outside of your home, and you also have a family or elderly parents that you're taking care of inside your home, it can be hard to strike that balance and to commit yourself. You know, they talk about life-work balance. I hate that word. I always say it's a juggle. But Jason, to bring your family life into your career and to bring your career into your family life is a delicate and difficult thing to do. And Jason did it.
Yeah.
And he was a family guy who was committed to this station.
Yep.
And if you needed him in for severe weather, he would be here, and he'd feel badly if he didn't, but he'd also say, I've got a soccer tournament in Savannah, and Chief Al would say, then go there and we'll figure this out
we'll
here.
Be fine. Get out of here.
And, you know, we are very blessed and lucky to have a job and a career and people and managers in a station that can say, okay, that's part of you. You don't have to commit just to the job, but you also need to value the job. And Jason did both those things. Family guy, we knew about his kids' interests. You know, I said before, was with Jillian and Jason Saturday night together, and then he also wanted to be here and sign up for every work thing possible. So that's a hard needle to thread.
That's
no matter who you are.
You know, you guys deliver the news. We make the weather forecast. And, you know, when you fill out your PTO, nobody ever knows, well, is there going to be a blizzard that day or a hurricane? Right. You know, you don't ever know. Right. You're filling this out 8 months ago and say, hey, I need that Friday off. And this was going back just a couple weeks ago when the remnants of Nicole came through with all that flooding up in the mountains, and we had wind here. And, you know, he genuinely wanted to be here. He knew he was going to miss out. But I said, we've got 4 of us here, myself, Alicia, Rachel, Becca, we got you covered. You know, so you've earned your PTO. You go with you.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Well, we're going to Savannah. We've got a soccer tournament. You know what? It's rain, it's wind, it's important, yeah, but we'll get through this. Go do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think, Molly, you bring up such a good point. And I'm thinking back now to when Jason interviewed here, and we went through that process, Eric and myself and a lot of managers.
Wait, that's Chip and Jason? It's a new
Oh my
picture.
goodness.
Wow.
Wow.
We haven't seen those yet. We're seeing these live as you are. So
Wow.
that's a great picture.
Yeah, they were. I don't know when those were taken,
I wonder Jason might have put those on his own social media. I'm just guessing. He was really good on social media.
but you know, we were talking. He was talking about going up in the helicopter. Thought this is the
he
best seat in
loved
the
that.
house.
Yeah,
this is
you
the
know,
best view one can have is up here in this
Yeah,
helicopter.
He loved being up there. And but my point I was going to
Yeah, go
say
ahead.
was that you know, he made no bones about it. Hey, I grew up in this area. I've been a chief meteorologist in another market in Kentucky, but I'm coming home. And I want to be, you know, I am a passionate meteorologist. You know, a lot of people interview for the job and they got a lot of passion. He made it crystal clear, though, that I am bringing my family
Yes.
with me.
Yeah.
And this is super important to me. There's nothing. Jason was a guy that had his priorities in order. You know, from his faith standpoint, he felt like, you know, life is about a pecking order. And honestly, WBTV sometimes, and it should be down here. Now, are there times where it jumps ahead briefly? Sure, when it's all hands on deck and we've got a weather emergency or a news emergency. But Jason was a guy that had his pecking order in order and his priorities in order. And he made it known, I've got these 4 kids who are coming with me and a wife. And I want to work. I'll work whenever I'm needed, but they are important
Yes.
to me, and that factors in. And honestly, Eric and I kind of took a step back and said, "Ooh, that's refreshing."
Yeah.
You know,
Because that was you and Eric.
that was us. That's you. You got. I
Yeah.
know your kids. You know, our kids both went to UNC Wilmington. I know
Yeah.
your
Right.
kids. You know, I've been
Yeah.
to your house. You know, we've all. You know, that's what makes this so difficult for us. You know, I'm a meteorologist. You guys are the news broadcasters. We don't do this every day. I've been here almost 30 years. I cannot remember a darker day. How in the heck we're getting through it, I don't know. With the love and support of our coworkers and our family here and our management and our company and all of you at home who are just killing us on the phone and you know, through social media, your prayers and your support, we need it right now, and their families need it as well. But that just resonated so much with me. I thought, you know, this guy's got his priorities. If he can forecast a lick, hire him. Let's go. Because,
you know,
and he
isn't that
turned out
nice?
to be a heck of a forecaster.
Absolutely.
Isn't that nice? I do think a lot of people watching would think, wow, you know, because sometimes companies, you are there as an employee, and what's outside of those 4 walls aren't factoring in. Well, here it has to factor in.
That's right.
It has to factor in because it's just a really intense career with odd hours, mornings, nights, all the time, interviews. And so if Jason said on his interview, I'm the guy and I'm talented and here's my resume, but I've got my wife Jillian and 4 kids and we're moving here to land here, so that's part of the package. That says a lot. And also to Al and Eric and managers saying that fits in with the WBTV family. We do all know each other's kids and wives,
right.
and love Tracy and love Meredith, and you guys love Wes. So it's just how that works. And Jason and Jillian, again, Jillian.
It's those fleeting moments, right? They got that family time together. And you guys know this, your kids are getting older. I'm telling you, when they're over as far as, you know, those moments of being at the soccer tournaments and as chaotic as your life is
JJ.
when your kids are, you know, that age. But boy, it's like, that turns a spigot off. So if you can spend every last moment doing that, you do that with, you know, your baseball and everything
man,
else,
yeah.
you would do anything to be there, and that's what Jason was, right? And like I said, the outdoors, all of those things that he took his family with all the time.
And there's no right or wrong way to do this. You know, there are certain people that have come to this TV station in this market who say, you know, I'm basically here for 2 years because this is a stepping stone onto something.
We were talking about that earlier,
There's
right?
nothing wrong with that. When I was young, I came here and I was a newlywed with no kids. And I remember a general manager coming to me one day right behind that door, 20 feet away from me here, and said, I hope you have so many babies that you never leave WBTV in Charlotte. And
Right.
I will never forget that.
Yeah.
And so for those that choose to leave, fantastic. God bless you. I've heard from a million of them today because we're all... Trust me, this station has been around a long time, and it's like
1949.
Tentacles. You know, we're still family, even if you're retired or move on. But Jason said, this is my final stop. I do not want to go anywhere else.
Right.
And I just love that about him and his family. He wanted to be a part of this community and wanted to be involved.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, that there are certain times, in your life where you're bouncing around from television market to television market and you're working your way up and those kinds of things. But there are times when you finally realize, nope, this is it. I've made it where I want to go. And there are other things in my life far more important than trying to go to Atlanta or Chicago or Washington, D.C. I'm here in a great community environment. I got grandma and grandpa right up the road.
Right.
And that's what Jason did. I mean, he got within, an easy drive of his parents again. And they could watch him on television every night. And, the kids could hang out with grandma and grandpa.
In our business, that, I know we're just throwing that out there. In our business, that is really kind of unheard of.
You're right.
Everybody is from somewhere else. There are very few
Yeah.
people, just like at your place of work, there are very few people from Charlotte, right? The natives, right? He was one. And so for him to come home and have just that part being so much joy to be, wow, I've landed right back home. I mean, I'm from New York. I don't want to go back home to New York City. This is home.
This is home now, right.
You're
Yep.
from Wisconsin. You're from North Carolina, but not here. This is not where we grew up. And most people that are at this station, this is not where they're from, but they becomes
Yep.
from. You want to stay here, and he was one of those kind of guys. And so was Chip. Chip loved what he was doing, had no desire to go anywhere else. They wanted to be here.
I think that I'm guessing you guys can tell we're all friends, and I'm guessing you can tell we are all family. We're talking about Jason and Chip as friends, not as necessarily professionals or coworkers. That's really important. That's not, obviously none of this is scripted. That's not something we're like making an effort to do. That's effortless because they are a part of us and they are friends. But don't let that lessen. We're not just talking about them as friends. Don't let them lessen the professionality that they both brought.
Yeah.
They were here because they were good. They were good guys.
Absolutely.
They were good men, but they were good at what they did. And we did see Chip's work in every single newscast, and you see it in promos, and you see it all the time. You see it when you didn't even know you were seeing it, you didn't know what you were seeing, and you didn't know Chip. But there's Chip, Chip knew this city from the sky. Chip had been here as WBTV's helicopter pilot through a contractor, but he was a part of our team, and he was so good. And we have said this before, but in case you're tuning in, you need to hear it again. None of us questioned ever getting in that helicopter with Chip. And I will go and say, I know Jason didn't question it today. And the person that, was up with Chip before Jason, we've been doing a lot of chopper training recently for us, not for Chip. He didn't question it. None of us questioned it. Chip was good. Chip was good. And he's a friend, but he was good at what he did. And Jason, good at what he did. And he was hired, we've said all these things. I have got to chuckle, though, here. Jason was a tall guy.
Oh, yeah, Jason was very tall.
Alex Giles takes the cake at 6'6" in our newsroom, but Jason also was a really tall guy. And you'd stand beside him and you'd feel very, not quite as tall.
He can give him a run for his money, though.
Yeah, he was right up there.
But he professional, good. You didn't question him. You knew what he was talking about. I love that he debated a 1 degree difference with you, Al.
He did. No, he would, Molly, and I mean that in the best way. And as the chief meteorologist, and I have, Jason was, the second most senior person. Everyone else, Rachel and Alicia and Becca, are great, but they haven't been here nearly as long as Jason had been. But I always remind them as their team leader to say, you're really good at what you do. Mm-hmm. If you're not, you would not be here. Mm-hmm. Right. There are 212 TV markets in the United States. This is number 21. If you're here, it's because you're good at what you do. Whether you're a producer out in that newsroom or a TMP, one of our directors here, you're good at what you do. And Jason was really good at what he did. I shared this earlier. Everybody has their own style of how you come up with whether it's going to be 71 or 64, or if it's going to rain. Is it an 80% chance of rain or a 30%? And we would get into these friendly debates. And in all seriousness, there are a lot of chefs that got into the kitchen to make the forecast. We never dropped it off and just say, well, that's your forecast, and then I'll pick it up and change it the next day. Yeah. We always wanted some consistency and continuity for our viewers so that they could understand the process. We try to walk you through the process. His process was so much detail. He would take these sheets of paper that he developed, Jason developed, and I know you can't see this, but I always called it Jason's chicken scratch, right? But it was his way of deciphering what's going to happen with the weather. Such a consummate professional, so much detail. He would go in, and I'm so much older school, and just go, let's just figure it out here, But I would always just kind of marvel at, and then the next day he would throw it in a recycle bin, because we shared the same desk.
Right.
And I just happened to see that laying there when I came in this afternoon, and I thought, that's his chicken scratch from
Well, it's like
yesterday.
a science nightmare to a
It
girl
is,
that didn't like
it's a homework assignment, but God bless.
that spoke to him.
He filled in every box, though, by the way.
Yeah.
He filled in every box. He never left
Right.
anything to chance. He just knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, and go back to Chip, too, for just a second, if I can. And we're going to go to our Caroline Hicks, in just a moment here to get us updated on the traffic situation. But think of it this way when it came to Chip, is every sort of big moment in our community, Chip brought that to us. If we had to say goodbye to a police officer or a firefighter, a service member who was coming home for the final time, and we needed that bird's eye view to bring you the story, that was Chip. That was Chip getting us up in the air and making that happen for us, find the breaking news, whatever it may be. And with the professionalism that he brought to the job, and he was just an incredible human being, too, and always smiling and always waving at you. Like I said, just this morning, I walked in about 11:15 this morning, and my car was parked in the parking lot to the side. You guys know where I mean. You walk right past the landing pad there here in our parking lot, and he was in there, and he was, I think, cooling down the engine, and always waved, always said hello. I always gave him a thumbs up. Every time they took off, I saw him, you give him the thumbs up that everything is going to be, go as it should. And man, oh man, it's just hard to think that, and then an hour later, they were gone. It's just hard to wrap your head around.
You asked how we're doing, Al. I think we're all processing, and people process in different ways. And all three of us are up here talking, and that's, I guess you guys get to witness our counseling session to each other.
Right. And
Kind of is, yeah.
But there's different ways to process and many days to come. We don't know what's to come. We don't know exactly how our newsroom will move forward in helping honor Jason and Chip. We certainly will, and we'll certainly pass it on to you. But we are just, how you doing? I don't know. How you doing? Just kind of figuring it out.
Minute by minute, right?
Right? They're friends, and you get the call, and you think, what?
Yeah.
I just talked to him, and then you rush into work and you're on TV, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know. So I think we're all figuring it out, and thank you guys for walking with us as we go through this.
Don't be fooled. I know I'm not lying when I say I know for myself, and I'm sure I've cried 1,000 tears today. I'm not ashamed to admit that, but we're in shock, so it's kind of a rush right now. Frankly, I've been up since 2 o'clock this morning. Not used to being here with you guys. We see you all the time, we'll see you at the Christmas parties and the parades, but I had mentioned, my wife and my son and my daughter and my son-in-law, they've already gone down to the coast, for Thanksgiving. I was going to meet up with them after the parade tomorrow, but I'm sitting at home and I'm watching John and Abby and Becca, and, of course I knew it had happened, but out of respect for their families, we had to walk through that process of just taking time to release the names and what had happened.
Right.
But I really didn't know where else to go or what else to do. I felt like I needed to be here.
I love that
really
you came
did.
here.
I talked to Eric, Paul Cameron, all of our friends. We're family. We really are. And even when people move on, other markets, I've heard from Chris Suchan, Jonathan Stacy, God, all of them.
Everybody,
everybody. I know you guys have too. And they just want to, our former news director, Kim Stein, there's Jason. They just want to make sure we're, that they're praying for us and want to know how we're doing.
Right. Too, right, trying to find a creative way to tell you the story. Writing something, into the, I guess the frost.
Pollen, probably.
Pollen, that's what it was, you're right. And some of the stories, he was heavily involved with the St. Jude Dream Home. You see the pin?
Yes, he was.
On his jacket. He did that before he came here, worked with St. Jude, with them. And then when he came here, obviously Mary's heavily involved in that, but Jason jumped in too, let me know what I can do.
That was just this week, I think, Alicia's guacamole she made.
Yeah. Having a good time there.
Yeah, he was in the cookbook, there are many sides, heck of a professional, heck of a meteorologist, but this is the other side. And that smile you see right there, it could lighten up a room.
Yep.
I mean, he's just as much at home with an apron on or a jacket out in the field as he was in front of the green screen. No secrets there, right? We have a green screen behind us, and there he is. Now, all right, so maybe it wasn't so great on ice skates, but we'll give him a pass.
He got
on that,
through it.
right?
Yeah.
Hey, but that's the thing. He made it whatever
work.
assignment they would dream up for him, he would go and say, you know what? Sure, I'll do that.
Yep.
He was a storyteller too, and that's I love that about our whole weather team, Al, your whole team, and our whole First Alert weather team. because you can be a good meteorologist and you can have the facts and the forecast, but he wanted to go right on the car and he wanted to explain the story and why it was cold or raining or sunny or whatever to you, and he would find ways to do that. That's actually the best broadcaster, the one who can explain it to you in a way that you get it in real ways and not just have, I always say it's like death by PowerPoint when someone bores you with facts.
Right.
That, it's this Jason, just like our whole weather team, and I'll say that with true confidence, but it's storytelling about the weather to hopefully register with you guys about what's coming and what you can prepare for. And Jason did that so well.
Very well, yeah, and he would keep it simple and try to find creative ways to explain what was going to happen. Sometimes state the obvious. We're all sneezing. We know the pollen's, so he'd write, something about it, But, he's the kind of guy that would go out there and, attempt to fry the egg on the sidewalk, or, he loved being up in that helicopter or out at the county fair.
He did love being.
Or out, you bring up a great point. His connection with just, the dream home, St. Jude. Genuine. That smile and his personality and the way that he would, like I said this before, and I if you've been watching this for a while, I hate to repeat myself, but he truly did have his order. He had a pecking order and a priority, and his family always came at the top of that, along with his faith.
This is a stressful job at times, and we all manifest that stress, right, in different ways. But you never heard him say no. You never heard him get worried about it. He would just kind of just tick the tasks off one at a time, and I'll get it done. I'll keep it moving. Yeah. I'm going to do my job as well as I can. A producer would come to him with an idea.
That's right.
And he was like, "Yeah, I can pull that off. I'll figure out a way to make that happen." And he would, do all those different things that we saw there, the creative ways of doing things. The guy never said no to anything.
He really didn't.
And he just went into it, all in, all gusto, ready to go and do it as best he possibly could.
And Jason, no secret, our weather center is literally, 15 feet behind us here. So this is our office. The studio is our office. There's a red buzzer over there that goes off whenever anything severe is happening or about to happen, including tornado warnings. And we live by those buzzers. And this guy was, Jason was a guy that could jump in and just do whatever needed to be done at the moment. He had no problem in doing that and just being a total professional about it. Chip as well, just a consummate professional. I've mentioned before, Jason and I shared kind of the same seat, the same workstation.
Right.
Chip, because he's a pilot, he didn't have a cubicle, pretty much. He would be out in the hangar and just always tinkering. And it's funny, I was thinking about this on the way in today. Back in the spring, I had my lawnmower, in the back of my truck because it had to get, a repair. Mind if I take a look at it? I mean, this guy, he was just that kind of a guy. He's like, I'm pretty mechanically inclined. And I said, you know what, as a helicopter pilot, I am sure you are, Chip.
Yes,
so we just lost two great family members today.
We absolutely did. Right now we want to go live to our Caroline Hicks. She's been on the story here today. One of us who doing the job of reporting the news as it happens, also grieving as well. I know both Chip and Jason meant the world to you as well, Caroline. I'll just leave the floor to you. Do you want to talk about them first or do you want to talk about the traffic first?
Yeah, Jamie, and I have enjoyed listening to you all through my ear out here, just hearing your memories with both of them. And you share a lot of the same memories that I have, just in how wonderful both of them were. And I like what you said, how the whole community knows how much Jason Myers loved his job because we saw it every day. But as you mentioned, Chip had a more behind the scenes role, but we got to see his smile and how much he loved flying that helicopter. I was up with him in the helicopter just last week, and I thought I was asking too many questions, to be perfectly honest, in my training, but he loved answering those questions because he loved what he did. And so it really was an honor to be able to spend that time with him. And I know that our thoughts and prayers are with their families so much at this moment. But I do want to give our viewers an idea of what's happening here on I-77 as we are starting to get into rush hour. So I do want to let you know that 2 lanes of I-77 South have now reopened. This is near Tyvola Road and Nations Ford Road. So you can see there is a little bit of traffic picking up there. The 2 left lanes are open. Now, according to NCDOT, that right lane and the entrance ramp from Tyvola Road to I-77 is going to stay closed until 6 a.m. on Wednesday. So they are asking that you plan accordingly. Of course, tomorrow is the day before Thanksgiving, people are going to be heading out of town. So it is good to keep that in mind. Again, that right lane and entrance ramp from Tyvola Road to I-77 South will stay closed until 6 a.m. But you can see those two left lanes, I-77 South, are back open. Of course, a lot of traffic because this interstate has been shut down for hours. So there's going to be a lot of traffic in this area for a while, but they are trying to get things moving, which is why they have been able to open those two lanes. We'll continue to bring you updates throughout the night, but we just wanted to give you an idea of what we're seeing. Again, this is from I-77 at Tyvola Road, just to give you kind of an idea of what you can expect if you are out on the roads tonight. Back to you.
Caroline Hicks live at Tyvola, and you have been for hours. Caroline, are you doing okay?
I am doing okay, Molly. How are you doing?
We're all going step by step, but we love you, and we want to make sure, just sort of in the spirit of Jason and Chip, and making sure people know we're thinking about them and how you doing and saying hi. And Caroline, we're tossing you as a reporter, and obviously we all work together in the same newsroom, but you're a friend and we care about you too. So hang in there, and good job. We see that the interstate is back open, at least a little.
I can't say enough about our crews are on this, they're covering the story for you. That's what we do in the news business, while also dealing with it, somebody that you know personally and love very much, and that's what we're struggling with here today. So we appreciate you kind of hanging with us through this, as Molly said, trying to process this live on the air tonight about two friends that we've known for several years here at WBTV, and trying to be professional, do our jobs as best we can, provide you the information. Obviously, we are well aware, I should say, that you need to get out and about and do things ahead of your Thanksgiving holiday, and people are trying to get through to various places, visit their relatives, and get their last-minute errands run. So we'll try to keep you updated on all those things throughout this evening, as well as, again, we try to process what has happened today. If you are just coming home just after the 5 o'clock hour now, it was around 12:20 this afternoon that we got word that a helicopter had gone down off of Interstate 77 South, southern Mecklenburg County, not far from 485. And it took us a while to realize that that was our helicopter. That was our Sky3, the one you see every night that we use during our newscasts to bring you breaking news, to bring you fun stories. We were over top of the Christmas lights over at Charlotte Motor Speedway the other day. So, it's just a wide variety of things that we use it for all the time. And
we reached out.
Yeah.
We heard about a helicopter crash, and as I'm sure people did across the county that had helicopters, all TV stations, CMPD, Levine, reached out. We didn't hear anything. So, and we knew who was supposed to be in the helicopter at that time. So from there, it just became a really difficult.
There aren't that many helicopters in the city of Charlotte, right? We know CMPD has them, a couple television stations have them, Medic, the hospitals, et cetera. So it was really the first thing being blurted out through our newsrooms, like, whose helicopter was that? What is happening here?
So you reach out.
And then obviously we could not get in contact with our helicopter any longer. So very hard reality began to set in that this was going to hit us. We were the ones that were going to have to deal with this pain today, and these families of these people we work with are going to be dealing with this unimaginable loss in their lives. Husbands and fathers, and that were going to be lost today. And that's what we're thinking about today. We are thinking about Chip and Jason and their spouses, Jason's kids. They're young, man. They're young. Got their whole lives ahead of them. So many great milestones ahead for them, of graduations and college and marriage and all those things. And they're going to have to get through that somehow without Jason. And I know that's going to be really hard.
It's going to be really hard. And I know you're thinking of your family, Jamie, and I'm thinking of mine, and everybody who loves Jason and Chip is thinking of theirs, and how Jason talked about Jillian and his kids, and how much Chip was a part of our WBTV family as well. We thank you, the community, who are sending in these comments and statements, and social media, as David Wisnett eloquently pointed out, can really be a good thing in times when people send up prayers and send up good thoughts to those who are really hurting. And we do have a statement from the CMPD chief. You did hear him say at the press conference about the pilot was a hero. He is now saying a statement on Twitter, and they've released this on your screen, and I'll read it. Our friends at WBTV News are in our thoughts and prayers. I know Chip and Jason were valued team members, and we mourn with you during this tragedy. What an unimaginable loss during what's typically a season of togetherness. We are here to support the WBTV team and their families.
We're also hearing from the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. They have sent out a tweet as well saying, our thoughts and prayers are with WBTV News and the families affected by today's terrible tragedy. We've just heard so many different reports from people today. We've heard from the governor, sent out a statement, Governor Cooper, Panthers, Charlotte FC. As David mentioned, as Molly mentioned, those mean a lot. Those really do mean a lot to us, and we appreciate it. And it's a reminder of why we do what we do, why we love this community, why Molly and I and Al and so many of us here who've been here for a long time didn't want to go anywhere else. It's because of this community.
It really is.
And we'll lean on you right now, too.
It really is. I came here single and no kids, and I'm married with 3. I thought this would be a stepping stone and go, get on 60 Minutes and save the world. But no,
why go anywhere else?
Charlotte opens its arms, and I'm here and love this city and love this community, as do many of us here, and as did Jason. And that's why we bring it up now, because Jason came here to make this his community, and he was making it his community in every way. He was from Salisbury, he lived in Union County. He had gone to Lexington, Kentucky to be a chief meteorologist there. I think he was in Richmond as well, at a TV station there maybe. And he came here, as Al said and explained, to make this his home with Jillian and their 4 kids. And he made very clear that he and Jillian and 4 kids were moving here to make this community their family community forever. There are Chip and Jason right there.
Yeah, I mean, and Jason, born in this area, born in Salisbury, lived, I think, at various times in Union County. I know in Catawba County as well. Again, to be closer to his family, to be, that's what we all want in the end, right, is to be close to those who love us most and to be able to share moments together all the time. And that's what Jason was doing while working hard at his career to do the best he could every day to bring you the weather and to keep you safe in the storm. They're marketing cliche lines, but they're true, and they took it all seriously. But he also, as Al was pointing out so eloquently, that what was really the most important thing was his family and making sure he had that time with them, with Jillian, with the kids, and every waking moment, that they could be out running around doing something. I don't know, who cut your grass, Jason? I would have had to ask him, because he seemed like he was always chasing off somewhere, with the kids and doing stuff, whether it was soccer tournaments, other sporting
He loved being
events.
on the events, the soccer fields. Such an involved
Mountain
dad.
biking,
Such an involved dad.
skiing. He would chase up to West Virginia to go skiing all the time, and you'd see those pictures, and he loved the great outdoors. He loved enjoying it. He loved being home. He loved his family. He loved WBTV. He loved doing his job for
really
you. And Chip, the same way. He loved what he did every single day. Did it well for us. Like I said earlier, he brought us happy moments in this community. He helped us get through some of the sad moments in our community when we had to cover, those awful stories like we're covering here today. But yeah, funerals and those kinds of things. And we couldn't have done that without Chip.
We could not have done that with Chip. And so many of you are sending statements. We have a few more. And I just want to say the poignancy, like the fact that the Panthers and Charlotte FC and CMPD and the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office, and I'm about to give you one from Gastonia Police Department. The fact that all these really important agencies in our community are responding, we really thank you, because we are part of the community, and I know sometimes it can seem like it's this relationship where it's media or it's law enforcement, and we don't want to answer tough questions, and we don't want to ask soft questions, and we want to ask. Well, it's not that. The thing that matters most is community. I mean, we are the community, all of us, the Gastonia Police Department and the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office and CMPD and, our pro sports teams. Like, this is what Charlotte is about, and what makes us so great is that we are really all one. And we might have different things and different missions in certain moments, but when it matters, we come together, and we're a great community. And we are seeing that in just how many of you are reaching out and trying to wrap your arms around us. So thank you for that. Gastonia Police Department has said that GPD has always had a great working relationship with local media partners, and we grieve alongside the WBTV News family right now after hearing about the tragic loss of Jason and Chip earlier today. Please keep the families of Jason and Chip in your prayers, and please keep the WBTV News family in your prayers. Thank you for that, Gastonia Police Department.
Yeah, it means a lot to us. As David has mentioned, we feel all of these. We really do. City of Gastonia also offered a message to us, offering deepest condolences to the WBTV family. We appreciate that as well.
Charlotte Knights also saying some things. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of Chip and Jason and to everyone at WBTV. And I think that we do have a statement as well from the National Weather Service. Yeah. We are deeply saddened by the news of Chip and Jason. Our thoughts are with their families and WBTV News.
One more while we're going through these. This is from Senator Tom Tillis, has written as well. What a horrible tragedy. My prayers go out to the families who lost their loved ones, as well as WBTV News. Braxton Winston, he is on the Charlotte City Council, of course, the mayor pro tem. My heart goes out to the family, friends, and colleagues of Jason and Chip who lost their lives while at work today. Our community will wrap our arms around the family and friends of Jason and Chip as they enter a holiday season of mourning. It's my understanding Chip died a hero by ensuring no motorists or pedestrians were harmed by their distress. Let us not take for granted the sacrifice and service of journalists like Jason and Chip who work to ensure we have the information we need to go about our lives day to day.
Thank you, Braxton.
I think it even goes on a little bit more. I'll never forget a story.
I think this is Courtney
Is this
Cole.
I'm
so
sorry.
One of our reporters, Courtney Cole, her last day was actually last week. Again, WBTV family, if you retire, if you leave, you go on to other things, you're always a part of the fabric of what is WBTV. And Jamie and I feel very lucky. Al, I mean, those of us who have been here a long time feel lucky to have been here for so long, but we have people sort of come for a few years and move on to other things. They're still a part of our family. Courtney Cole, again, was our education reporter last week, and she said, I'll never forget a story on a stolen helicopter that I did back in 2021. Chip helped me answer some questions, and I even tried to interview him. I don't remember why it didn't pan out, but he was so eager to help me. These weren't just my colleagues, they were my second family. Today our family's hurting. Whether you worked at WBTV years ago or present day, you probably knew Jason and Chip. God bless their families, and God cover WBTV as the current staff navigates this tremendous loss. Courtney, thank you for that. Very well said.
We have some more statements. We'll get to those in a moment, but I want to bring in, we'll do one more. You guys let's talk to Siobhan, actually.
Yeah,
She's
let's
been
go to
waiting
Siobhan.
for us. Our Siobhan Bryan, of course, anchors WBTV News first at 4, as well as WBTV News at 5:30 and at 4 o'clock. It was Jason, you and Alex, and on this set together every single night. It's just a brutally difficult day, Siobhan.
An understatement, Jamie. It's been interesting listening to you and Molly and Al earlier for the last, hour plus. And, you kind of waver between tears welling up and smiling at the memories. You guys talk about Jason walking around the newsroom with his clipboard. You vividly see that because, as Molly said, that just happened. That was yesterday. That was life. You just get used to it. And, there's so many fond memories of both Jason and Chip. Like, as you just mentioned, first at 4 is me, Alex, and Jason. And, whether or not you, the viewers, notice it, every first alert day, we would always wear red. That was our thing. And we would yell at each other, first alert red. That was our team thing. We did a first at 4 hand thing before the newscast every day. I jokingly did the Mean Girls thing on Wednesdays. We wear pink, and Jason started picking it up, wearing pink ties to match my pink dresses on Wednesdays. Jason was so in tune, as Al pointed out, so much attention to detail, such a team player. He just wanted everyone to feel welcome. Obviously, I'm one of the newer members of the team. I've only been with WBTV about 7 months, but even what Courtney said and what so many others have said, it really is a family. You really feel that loss. Earlier today, I remember sitting next to Jamie in the newsroom, and once we heard there was a chopper down, the panic in the room, everybody, from the desk to the anchors to the reporters to the producers, there was a panic just at the prospect of it being some of our own. And I ran out, and we ran out and got out here stuck in the traffic trying to figure out what was going on. The whole time your heart is just pumping because you just can't even fathom the loss of our Chip, of our Jason, who we see all the time. Jason, what I would refer to him and Rachel as my meteorological friends, Jason's truly that picture you see on our website of him smiling ear to ear. That's Jason Myers every day. Every single day. I was laughing to myself as you guys would kind of do the mini imitation of him, the, hey, how you doing? Because every day, that was Jason. Again, I've only been here 7 months, but I can't think of a single day that Jason didn't come up to my desk, ask how I was doing, ask about my weekend, tell me about his kids, talk about places I should visit as a new Carolinian, as a new resident of the area. He gave me endless recommendations of a lot of outdoors things, of course, because that was Jason's bag. That's what he loved to do. And Chip, my first time in Sky3 was just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Chip was so welcoming, so warm, so friendly. I felt like I had known the guy for years. He had a great sense of humor. While we were up there, I had endless questions because, how often do you get to go up in a helicopter? And he was so knowledgeable, and you could tell he loved what he did, and he knew every little thing on that chopper. Every little button, every little switch, he explained every little thing, made sure that I got in and got out correctly, made sure I flipped everything the right way. He was so meticulous. And I was even more in awe of his work being next to him in that chopper than it is just watching it from the ground. Because watching it land and take off every day is exciting, and watching the footage on TV is amazing. But when you're next to him and you're watching him check the pressure and make sure that everything is done just right, you're like, this guy is, I mean, he's scientific with it. He really pays close attention. He loved that chopper. And I remember him telling me this was his second career. This was, you know, kind of his post-retirement thing. And he said it was the best retirement job he could have asked for. He loves it so much. He loves, and I jokingly told him, I said, you have the coolest icebreaker in the world. And people say, what do you do? And you say, I'm a chopper pilot. It's so cool, you know. And he was so humble. He was so knowledgeable. He was so helpful. He was so eager, and Jason was as well. And that's what makes it so wild. These two were so similar in their passion, in their eagerness, in their positivity, in their sense of teamwork. You know, the loss is immeasurable. It really is. And we're not just saying that because we're supposed to say that. I mean, the shock is real. It is very palpable for all of us that are out here. I was talking to, because I'm out here with Alex and two of our photographers, Marlo and Spike Leather, and we've all been in that chopper. And we've all said, we trust Chip with our lives, literally. We trust Chip with our lives. He was that good. So this is an absolute shock. This was no novice. And Jason would call the chopper, call Sky3 the best seat in the house. You've probably seen that commercial. All smiles, because that's Jason Myers. And I know I'm getting redundant, but I mean, it's just one of those things that you just run through it and you just can't believe that we won't see Jason tomorrow. And as David Wisnett said earlier, you know, please pray for our WBTV family, but even more so, please pray for their families, especially as we're getting close to Thanksgiving and the holiday season. I can't imagine. These are two very family-oriented men, and we can't even imagine, can't even fathom what they're thinking of. And we appreciate everybody who's been offering condolences. All of our phones are dying because we've been getting so many messages and phone calls from people in the community, from people who are seeing this on social media, you know, from elected officials, from first responders. You know, we definitely appreciate CMPD and Charlotte Fire, who said that once they knew it was a media copter, they kind of wanted to take their time and figure out the best way to release this information in the most respectful way possible, because we work with these people every day. And, you know, it really is just a time to remember to hug on your loved ones a little extra tight today, you know, and your loved ones are not only your family, but also your work family. So please, you know, as one of the newer members of WBTV, please pray for Jason and Chip's families, pray for the WBTV families, and just hug on your loved ones, guys.
That is well said, Siobhan. Thank you. And I think, you know, what she was talking about, we're processing and we're vacillating back and forth between smiling about the fond memories that we have of both Chip and Jason, but then also having that moment of grief that just overwhelms you from time to time because of, you know, the loss that this means to not only the television station, but as Siobhan was pointing out, more importantly, Jason's family, Chip's wife, their extended families. They're the ones, you know, who are devastated far beyond words, and you just can't. You just pause, and it hits you
out of nowhere, because no one expected it. We all talked to them this morning, talked to them last night.
Right.
But I will say the sort of chuckling laughter over telling funny stories is helpfthat
It does.
It's also exactly who Jason was. I mean, Jason is a smiling guy who cracked jokes, and sometimes he'd be like, "Really? That was like funny dad jokes, you know." But he was a smiling, happy guy, as we've said since the first sentence falling out of our mouths about Jason. I think the first words you said were positive, smiling. When we were breaking the news to the community that we knew who the identities were of the two people who died. So yes, there is horror in that, and we have hearts that are cracking here at WBTV today, but there's also some sort of smiling in the memories, and hearing Al laugh about some things, and knowing that he was just in Savannah at a soccer tournament with his kids, you know, 2 weeks ago, and him pirouetting on the ice yesterday live at 5, and we're laughing about him being on ice, you know, and falling all over himself. I mean, there's just some joy in who Jason was, and you want to be able to honor that as well, even in these raw, real first moments of positivity.
I think you would say he was at peace with his life, because it was all in order for him, right? As Al was pointing out, right? He had his priorities, his faith in his family, the job, but he was home, back near his parents and working at a television station where that's just where he always wanted to be. So, I mean, you think about all the things that have come together, in your life, and to be at that moment, and, that's something we all sort of strive for, right? Are those kinds of things that happen to us, is that they can all sort of just come together. And they were, and that's what makes it so hard, is that he didn't have nearly enough time here, obviously, to enjoy the fruits of all those labors that he had put in to get to this point in his life, and to see his kids, continue to thrive and do great things in their futures. And that's what he was just rooting for and thinking about all the time. And that's all that was important to him. And even going back to Chip, what Siobhan was saying, he was meticulous in his job, and the other photographers. It was mostly our photographers who would go up in the air with Chip most days to cover breaking news, and whatnot. But you put your life in his hands, and you didn't think twice, because you saw the professionalism of this guy. I mean, he was on top of everything, and he wasn't going to put that bird in the air if he didn't think it was absolutely 100% safe.
And nobody questioned that.
He
managed that. We would say, oh, Chip, such and such happened. Yes. Can we go up in the air? And the assignment desk would talk to Chip, and Chip would say, yes, no, we've got this window. I can only be up for this amount of minutes. We have to refuel. I mean, things that I'm not any aviation expert, but Chip was.
And there's schedules for maintenance, and those kinds of things, so the helicopter.
So you asked Chip, and Chip was period, end of story. Yes, we can. No, we can't. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And so, again, knowing that, hearing the chief say, not just witnesses, although the witness accounts are where it comes for the confirmation for the law enforcement authorities, but to hear the chief say, in the first time the police came out to say anything, we'd all been waiting 2.5 hours to hear anything, and he was able to say in that 3-minute conversation he had with reporters, one of the key things he said was about the pilot. We did not at that point release it had been Chip. The pilot was definitely a hero, and I think we have the exact words from the chief, CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings, ready for you to hear now how Chip saved other lives.
It seems the pilot that was operating the aircraft made some diversionary moves to avoid hitting traffic. Fortunately, there was no vehicles involved in it, and I think that's, as we move forward, to me it looks like a heroic incident where the pilot tried to avoid injuring anyone else and putting anyone else in danger. And if that is truly the case, then that pilot is a hero in my eyes, to make sure that the safety and security of those that were driving on the road was not in jeopardy.
And there it is.
Yeah, and we heard it from the witness that David talked to earlier as well, describing, that scene, that's something that she's going to always have in her memory, of that pilot making a move. Chip, we know who it is now. At the time, we weren't releasing that information, but she's going to live with that too, to see what he had done to obviously keep other people out of harm's way at a busy time around lunch hour. A couple of days before Thanksgiving, when there are just thousands of vehicles on the road today, and for him to avoid anyone on the ground, to find one small area at least that he could try to put the helicopter down. That's obviously what he was trying to do too, is bring it down safely. Thinking of Jason too, one can only imagine what was going through all their minds, and he did everything he could, to save as many lives as possible. And from what we understand, that's what he did.
We're on the same wavelength, because I was sitting right there thinking, what must Chip have been thinking?
Right.
There's nowhere to land.
No.
There's nowhere to land.
Not along that stretch, no.
If you look at that, Nations Ford, I-77 South, we've driven up and down there, a million times.
Right.
It's not a patchy field. It's not a business park empty parking lot. It's not an interstate that's empty. It's a jam-packed interstate with no parking lots, and there's like a small, if you saw it, of the crash scene, a small grassy area, and Chip hit that.
Yeah.
He hit that small grassy area. I mean, there's nowhere there to go, and I'm thinking of that as you were saying it. There's nowhere to go.
No, that there are very few options, good options, certainly in that area at all. And obviously he's making a calculated decision, one assumes, right? How can I do the least amount of damage? And he knew it was obviously in a bad situation. Again, the investigation will sort some of this out as well. We'll hear from the FAA and the NTSB at some point. They are on scene, gathering up what they need to gather on the scene itself. Then it becomes sort of the reconstruction process that they go through come up eventually, with some sort of final report that usually takes months, maybe even a year or more, till we get all of the answers of what they think happened as best they can piece together. But the helicopter had been up and down a couple times today, obviously without any problems prior. And I think that's something a lot of us, I'm sure, are processing here today too. As you mentioned, with our photographers who go up in that in Sky3 all the time. I've been up in it, you've been up in it, we've all been up in it at one time or another. It could have been any of us up there today. It
could have been any of us at BTV.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and it could have. And some people were up. Ron Lee, I know, like I said, just earlier this morning was up in it. So
it could have been any of us and any of our friends and any of our WBTV family. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school when Jamie, I got a text and Jamie said, call me. And so I did. And he said, the helicopter went down. 2 people are on board. And I said, who? Because I knew anybody.
It could have been any of us.
Couldn't have been anybody. And I only say that for context for everybody in this community to know. I mean, things happen so fast and you never know. And it can happen to anyone sometimes. So you do want to live life with that sort of spirit that they had of positivity and smiling and asking how you are. And trying to always have those kind words for other people because you just never, ever know.
And those 2 particularly were that way, right? Always thinking of others, always asking how you're doing. Always, top of mind was having that interaction with other people to check on them, to make sure that their day is going okay. And that's just the way both Chip and Jason were. A few more statements, condolences have been coming in to WBTV. I think we can put up one on the screen here in a moment if we can. Dina Diorio is the Mecklenburg County manager, says our hearts and prayers go out to the families of WBTV's helicopter crew. Chip and Jason, the entire WBTV family, you are invaluable partners in keeping our region informed.
Very nice, thank you. Star Med, just seeing the news. Heartbreaking. This is a new statement from Star Med. Just seeing the news, heartbreaking. Thinking about all those impacted across our city and the WBTV News family specifically. Let's all pull together and help where we can, Charlotte. So, Star Med, thank you.
We're also hearing from our news partners, Axio Charlotte. They have written, we had Axio Charlotte wish to send our condolences to the friends and families of WBTV's Jason Myers and Chip Tayag, who died in a helicopter crash today. WBTV, as I mentioned, is our news partner, and the people who work there are among the best humans in the business. We are devastated for them.
Our Mayor Vi Lyles, our deepest condolences to Jason and Chip's families and the entire WBTV team on the loss of these wonderful members of our community. There are a lot of statements coming in. Jamie and I are reading them and seeing them for the first time as you guys are, unless you're on Twitter. We are certainly not at this point. So we're all sort of processing this and appreciate those comments. It really is just about Jason and Chip's families right now. I mean, WBTV News is hurting, but all of us are hurting for their wives and the kids and their families. Our David Wisnett, are you there, David? I think you're out there. David's been out there. It's now nightfall, so also want to point that out. If you are getting on I-77 South, be extra careful with those 2 lanes and the cones and the fact that they are still investigating this scene out there. They have opened it to some traffic. But David, you're not there to talk about traffic. How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I'm supported by a lot of folks, just like everybody in our newsroom is tonight. So I'm fine. I'm at Providence United Methodist Church in Charlotte because it's around the corner from the home of a lady that I spoke to earlier today, and she was a witness to this accident, and you'll hear from her coming up a little bit later, but that's why I'm standing out here tonight. And I was just, if you don't mind me sharing this, I was thinking back about the first time I ever flew with Chip. And it was when there was a man in Rowan County who was missing and had gone missing several weeks prior. And I got to go up in Sky3 with Chip, and that was the first time we ever flew. And I've already posted, I was making a really goofy face because I was so excited about flying because it's just fun. It's a great time. It's a good thing to do. But anyway, we were flying over northern Rowan County in the Spencer area, and we were trying to help law enforcement find this missing man. And I just thought, yeah, we were doing a job. I mean, we had a story to tell and all that. But we were also trying to do our level best to try to help in a situation where we had a little perspective that we could offer, that could have made a difference, But we just had a good time because just enjoyable. And I was thinking that was the first time that we ever flew, and I guess we flew a couple more times, since then. It's just still very difficult to believe, and as the witness I spoke to said, it's just hard to process all this right now.
And then I said, let me at least just go over and see if I can help in any way. And I walked back, and this thing came down within 100 feet of me. So I was driving on the highway, and it came in front of me. It came down on the grass. I went over and looked at the wreckage and realized there's no way. The thing was crumpled. I had never seen anything like that.
That is Bridget Ann Hamden, and she was the witness, and she told me she started her day going to get her hair done, and she got in the car. She got on I-77 at Tyvola. She was on the phone with a friend when she saw Sky3 falling out of the sky, and she screamed to her friend. She hung up the phone. She saw the crash. She made special mention of how she saw that the helicopter moved away from I-77, moved away from all the cars on the busy interstate on a holiday week, and crashed in the grass. And in her opinion, possibly created a situation where lives were saved. Stopped what she said would have been chaos had it come down on the interstate. And again, you'll hear more from her a little bit later, but a very gracious woman, because she reached out to WBTV. She wanted to talk to us and say, this is what I saw. And she said she felt like Chip should be applauded for what he did in those last moments. And it was very, very powerful. Back to you guys.
It certainly was. He's a hero in all this. And David, too, I'm thinking to myself as you're talking and you're describing flying with Chip, for all of us who got to go and be the passenger with him, right, this was a really cool, fun experience. We didn't have to worry about anything because we knew Chip had taken care of all of that. He was the one in charge of this thing. He had everything just buttoned up and ready to go. You felt like you were in good hands, right?
You did, absolutely. That's a really good point, because like the picture that I used, I'm making a goofy face and he's very serious, and you can see him right over my shoulder. And when you would fly with him, yeah, you're right, he was locked into whatever that mission was. Whatever it was we were supposed to do, that's what he did. And so as we're flying over northern Rowan County to try to help find this missing man, I remember he kept asking me, where now, because he wanted to make sure that we would go to each place where there was a possibility that this gentleman might be found. And he was just focused on that. He wasn't focused on, I got to help David get a good story. He was focused on, there's a man missing in this area. We're up in the air. We might be able to find him. And that's what it was all about that day. And that left an impression, because, again, that was the first time I flew with him. And I'll obviously never forget that. I'm glad I took a couple of pictures and have that now.
David, you don't know this, I don't think, but we are seeing those pictures on TV right now. Everybody is, and your goofy face and Chip's sort of stoic professionalism, and your excitement for being there in the helicopter, and him being the absolute professional pilot you wanted to be with.
Yeah, him going through his checklist, making sure everything is just right. Because like I said, for us it was an amusement park ride, right? But for him it was serious business, and that's the way he treated it.
I don't know if you can hear us. David, can you hear us? Sometimes our earpieces go funny.
Yes.
Okay. We were just reiterating how you were saying he was such a professional. He was just a professional, and your pictures, we saw them on TV, showed that he was a professional and you were being goofy. We saw it also. That was true.
Yep. But he understood that too, right? That this was a kind of a unique experience for all of us. But he was also going to make sure that it was a safe trip, and that was always paramount for him. I think David might be having some trouble with his earpiece, so we'll let him go right now. But David always gives us great perspective on any time we go to him about any topic, because I think he's probably our longest on-air person these days, right? He must be. And we always lean on him in tough situations. We've lost some people here in the years past to illness and those kinds of things, and those are hard. They're not unexpected though when they happen for the most part. But David's always the one guy who we can always lean on to provide us with just the right words, it seems like, to come up with. Today's obviously much different because no one could have predicted this moment today that we're all dealing with, and that Chip and Jason's family are dealing with, and that's certainly who we're thinking of first and foremost.
We were just talking about Chip, Jason. who most of you at home would know more than you would know Chip, everything you saw was exactly who he was. And just last night, we saw a perfect example of sort of this happy, energetic, amazing guy and this positivity that exuded from Jason Myers.
Yeah, we spoke to him less than 24 hours ago right here on the air at the opening of Carowinds Winterfest. So excited, wasn't he, for the holidays and for seeing people so happy with their families. Let's watch it. That's where we find meteorologist Jason Myers. All right, Jason, sub 50 already. Maybe grab some hot chocolate, huh?
Exactly. A little chilly out here, but a lot of fun. I mean, everybody out here, of course, has smiles. We've got the festive music going on. I'm out here trying to stay up. I'll say, here's some tips for ice skating. Jamie, I think you'd probably be really good at this, right? But the key is to not get too close to people that might drag you down on their way down. I'm going to try to do a little trick for you guys. There we go. So, yeah, we're having fun out here, of course, with the holiday music, and a lot of folks are having a great time out here. A lot of smiles going on, and haven't fallen yet. So I probably better get off the ice skates while I have a good track record here. But back to you guys in the warm studio. A lot of fun out here.
The pirouette there, well done. Yeah, you stayed upright. That is the key.
Come on out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on out. Let's go ice skating, okay, guys?
Push and glide. Push and glide. You'll be okay.
That is fun to get the families out there. They will bring you down. That was yesterday.
I know, just yesterday, laughing and smiling and goofing off on TV. You know, that's the thing. But like we were talking about earlier, if you've been with us, you know, since 1 o'clock or so when we came on the air, 1:30, that's who Jason was. Literally smiling constantly, not only on the air, behind the scenes. No matter when he was coming through the newsroom, he's always checking on you. Just the most positive person you will ever find in your life was Jason Myers. And to Al's point, he just had his priorities straight, right? He understood what was important in this world. And to get stressed out about the little things that many of us get stressed out about, he had the ability, I guess, to let that roll off his back better than most. And we're going to miss that positive energy here in this newsroom.
We're going to miss a lot of things.
Yeah.
In this newsroom, you said, this stuck with me, I don't know when you said it in the course of the last 4 hours, but he was at peace. His life was in order, and he had a sense of peace about him. And what a gift, really, if you can think that your life is at peace.
Yeah, it's come together just how you
know,
want it,
you
right?
want life to live. You want more life to be able to live with that peace you've created. But to have a career that you love and you work hard for, and to have a family you adore and you're happy to talk about and share with others, and to be happy to everyone you meet and shake your hand and ask how they're doing. That's a good situation you've created for yourself and you've carved out for yourself, and a peaceful position in life.
And I think, and I don't know about you, I feel almost a little guilty that I just took those moments for granted, you know?
With
it was
Jason?
just, he's just coming through again. It's Jason being Jason. And it wasn't that you didn't appreciate it. You always did. But you know what I mean? But it's just like it hits obviously different today, and you're going to just notice it, you know, when the next day rolls around. We come in here tomorrow and you don't have that moment with him that you did every single day. Or like I mentioned earlier, I know Rachel could point to that. He didn't leave here without saying goodbye. You know, a lot of us sometimes you just, your day is done, you log off your computer, you pick up your jacket, your keys, and
you're done.
And you just kind of walk out. Usually if you see somebody, you'll say so long. But Jason made a point every day to make sure he was waving at you, making eye contact, you know, and making you feel appreciated. And that's just the way he kind of got through life, I think. And it's something I think we can all take with us, and a legacy that's really important.
Yeah, someone says you are happy, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
You're doing something right. I keep thinking of Saturday night and hanging out with him and his wife, Jillian. Again, we said at the March of Dimes at an event in the community to raise money to help others, and he was there on his own, wanted to be there. And you just think, like, we took a lot of photos. And in my phone, I have these photos, and you're like, wow, you didn't know.
Right.
You know, you didn't know that those were, you just don't know. And it's like when we talk today, and it's like, who was on board? Because it could have been anyone.
Right.
And when was the last interaction with? And everybody in our newsroom and our WBTV News family is thinking, I just talked to him, or I just was with Chip yesterday, or Jamie talking to Chip this morning, walking in an hour before the crash.
Right.
And that's, I think, what is really hard for our team right now to realize you just didn't know was the last time.
Right.
And when something is so unexpected, you have to try and process along with the death and the difficulty of that, but the process that we had no idea it was final.
Right.
Nobody knows final.
Yeah, I mean, it's just your worst fear realized is what happened here today. One thing we can say, witnesses to today's crash, you just heard from David there, they keep telling us one thing, the pilot, Chip, he was a hero in all this.
Yeah, once again, let's show you our Chip. Chip Tayag, he came to WBTV in 2017. He'd been a pilot for more than 20 years, and when we say the WBTV family is grieving, it includes Chip. We are truly grieving. He was a contractor, but worked at BTV through another company, worked at BTV. He was here all the time. This was his place. This is the helicopter he flew. That's his baby behind him. And whenever you saw Chip in the parking lot or on the chopper launch pad, he had a smile, he waved. He is survived by his wife, his entire family, of course, in our thoughts tonight.
No question about that. The Panthers and Charlotte FC still scheduled to hold their annual Christmas tree lighting outside of Bank of America Stadium tonight. Both teams did release a statement ahead of that event tonight saying, quote, "Our thoughts are with our friends at WBTV on the loss of Jason and Chip. We will have a moment of silence at tonight's tree lighting in their honor." You'll forgive me, I don't know what time that is tonight. Obviously, it may have already happened. Oh, 7:30, okay, that's helpful. So listen, we've been talking about it. It's those kinds of things. Charlotte FC and the Carolina Panthers, massive entities in this community, they didn't have to say anything. I wouldn't necessarily would have expected them to do something like that, but to do it says a lot about their organizations and their people and what it means to us as we try to grieve and get through this. So it's important.
And how community is the ultimate importance. Community and all of us in this community, and Charlotte stepping up and stepping forward to support each other in times of need. Al Conklin, our chief meteorologist, said earlier, and it was so well said, he said, "We have been on your side for a long time, but we might right now need you to be on ours." And thank you to all those who are sending statements and organizations. I mean, if we're not reading them, we are receiving them, and we want you to know that we feel them. It is just trying to process through some of these things right now, because what does matter is community, and it's easy to live in our little bubbles, in your neighborhood or your part of town or what you're involved with, but community is what matters, and it's not some other community over there or they're over there. It's where we are right here. This is where we, all of us, you watching and us here at BTV live. And so we appreciate that you are sending your thoughts, because it impacts us, and therefore it's impacting you, and you're wrapping your arms around us, and we really do appreciate that.
We're doing our best to cover the story for you as well, mindful of what our job is here, and that, of course, includes the traffic impacts that we have been seeing here today. Live pictures from Interstate 77. Those are the southbound lanes that are going away from the camera. This is near Nations Ford Road. This will take you close to 485, and then you head on into South Carolina. You can see 2 of the lanes are now open. Emergency vehicles are still there, obviously. So be mindful of that if you're traveling tonight. We always want to look out for those first responders who are still on the scene. We want to make sure we're keeping them safe tonight as well. But traffic is inching along there this evening. The northbound lanes have been open, I think, throughout all of this, but there's been obviously some heavy delays in there as people see a lot of emergency lights, so they slow down. But
recommend still sort of avoiding the area.
Yeah, it's best at this point, certainly. We had a massive detour. We were talking about it earlier. I don't remember one quite as long, where they were getting traffic off way north of Uptown off 85 and bringing you around 485 to 77. So, but those lanes are moving, albeit slowly. So if you're expecting someone home tonight, or some family maybe is making their way in for the holiday, maybe have them avoid this area if they can. If nothing else, they're going to be late. Just pack your patience and just be careful here tonight. Let's get everyone home safe and sound and with their families tonight, because boy, that's what we would hope for Jason and Chip tonight, and sadly it's not going to happen.
We don't know when that detour will fully be open. Obviously, there is a scene that must be cleared, and investigation is still ongoing there on the other 2 lanes closest to the helicopter accident, where it actually went down the site. But it was earlier said it could be until midnight that we would have some of those lanes closed. So as Jamie was saying, pack the patience and give some grace. Also, make sure you just call anybody that you know might be driving. It's worth it probably to do a 15 or 20 mile detour around 77 and just not get involved in it at all. It has been messy for many, many miles. Yeah. Longest detour we said we'd ever seen, and we've both been here almost 20 years.
Oh, right. I
never seen the interstate shut down that far.
Right. Obviously, because there's a lot that had to happen there. CMPD Highway Patrol got in there to secure that site, waiting for federal investigators to arrive so they can begin to do their investigative job on this to determine what happened and why the helicopter went down today. We don't know any of that, obviously, and that we won't know those answers for quite some time. It took us several hours just to be able to release publicly the names of those involved in this. We had obviously an indication early on that it was our helicopter, and our loved ones who we knew who they were, but until we could get their families notified, we were going to be very careful and slow in doing that. And mentioned this earlier, I'll just repeat it. I can't thank our other TV stations here in town who we compete with every single day, and their support through all of this, and also being mindful of that, because you all know there was only one person who flew the helicopter, so you knew, so that name, as soon as you identified WBTV's helicopter, everybody would know who that is. So, we didn't know a passenger at that point. A lot of people wouldn't, but you see what I'm saying is that, so for them to hold off on that until those families could be properly notified means a lot to us, and we appreciate what you did for us today.
And would certainly do the same in return.
Yeah.
We do have some more statements coming in on behalf of all of us here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of those involved in today's crash. That is from the GM, Greg Walter, at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Jeff Jackson is a state senator. He'll be heading to Congress here with the new Congress. He has sent a message saying this is absolutely tragic. Marissa and I are thinking about everyone at WBTV and the families of those involved. Marissa, of course, is the senator's wife. We appreciate that message.
This is heartbreaking and tragic, says Representative Wesley Harris, of course, for North Carolina. Prayers are with the families and everyone at WBTV. Everyone really wrapping their arms, not just around us, but about the families. Jason married to Jillian with 4 kids, and Chip and his wife and their family. And there's a lot of hurt right now. So these statements really do mean a lot.
Congressman Ted Budd, Senator-elect Ted Budd, also sending a message via Twitter. Heartbreaking news, sending our prayers to WBTV News and everyone involved in this tragedy.
We at the Charlotte Observer also sent some words. Extend our sincerest condolences to the WBTV family and to the family and loved ones of those lost. We wrap our arms around you all and are here to support you. And Jamie, then here is exactly what we were saying about other TV stations.
Yeah, WCNC, this comes from their president and general manager, Joan Barrett. We want to extend our deepest condolences to the staff and family members of the WBTV team. Losing team members in this way is heart-wrenching. We are here to assist the WBTV team in any way we can. And we can tell you they already did that today. Earlier, they provided us with an interview from a witness as we started to get this indication of the heroic actions of Chip today in keeping that helicopter off of the interstate. And WCNC gathered that interview up and shared it with us. And y'all, that means a lot. We really do appreciate that. And as Molly mentioned, we'd have your back in a similar situation. So we're competitors on a daily basis, not today.
No, not today, because it could have really been anybody.
Right.
All TV stations, let's say this in the Charlotte market, all of them, it is our job to figure out information no matter what TV station you're at. That's being a reporter. And safe to say every single station knew who the names were and who was on that helicopter, and nobody aired the names of the 2 who died until we did, and we appreciate that as well to our fellow media partners, people that are in this job and industry and understanding and following our lead on that, because we had to make sure that Jason and Chip's families and their wives knew. So thank you. That was most important, not to be first, but to be right and to have the right tone, and we appreciate you following our lead on these things.
I think we had some pictures that we were showing you earlier today. I don't know if we can pop them up again of Chip and Jason in the helicopter. There they are right there. We were joking earlier about the clipboard, Jason. See,
he has it.
Yeah, he's always carrying it, always taking notes. I'm not sure exactly when these photos were taken, judging by the short sleeves. I'm guessing it was a while ago in some warmer weather, but that just is them right there. That's, Chip would take that time with you and explain every last inch of that helicopter if you wanted to hear the story, and Jason would be the kind of guy who'd want to hear.
He would want to hear the story.
He would want to hear every last detail on that helicopter. And with the aviators on, he looks the part, doesn't he, going alongside. And Jason's a tall guy, Chip not nearly as tall, but to see them standing together like that, shoulder to shoulder, it brings a smile to our face.
It does, doesn't it? I think he's 6'4", because Alex Strauss is the tallest on staff at 6'6", and Jason still was shorter than Alex, which was always funny because Jason's not shorter than most people ever.
No.
So 6'4", that's a really special photo right there.
Yeah, and they seem both smiling, and we saw their other pictures on the screen earlier, but that's just who they were. They literally, every time you went past them, had a smile on their face, and they would ask you how you're doing and say hello, and took time out of their day to make sure that you were okay. And like I said, I walked in there at 11:15 this morning and saw Chip in the seat, getting ready to take off, and
with Jason.
With an hour later, it's the news that we're dealing with here tonight. So I appreciate you guys being patient with us tonight as we process this on the air with us and our staff here that you don't see, on the cameras here tonight. There's a lot of people in that newsroom that are just a few yards away from us who are hurting bad too. And they're doing their best to keep this product on the air, to keep you informed about what's going on, not only with the accident, but the traffic situation and the details that surround all of that. So
one of the things maybe we can
too.
all do, and you said this early on, we've been on air live since noon with our new newscast. I think you and I about 1 or 1:30. You said this at one point early on, but Jason truly did ask you how you are, whoever you are, every day, every time he met you. And he made a point to come in the newsroom with the clipboard and say hi and shake hands and ask how you are and smile. And I mean, if nothing else, I will remember to do that based on him. And I think that's something we can all do, is make sure you're aware of who else is around you and not just walk through a room or get to your destination or make sure you had your things you wanted to say, but to come in and stop. And on his way into a conference room for a meeting, he'd say, "Hey, Jamie, how you doing?"
Right, exactly.
"Hey, Molly, how was your weekend?" Just always saying hi and not being so insulated in your own mind, and instead opening yourself to the people and the environment around you, is something Jason Myers did every single day to every single one of us here, no matter what the role is, no matter what our names are, no matter anything about it. He would introduce himself if he didn't know you. He was the first person to welcome new employees. He always made sure everybody felt worthy and seen and had someone to talk to.
Yep.
And if nothing else, we can all do that, knowing that was what Jason did every day. And the positivity just jumped out of his pores, jumped out of it right in front of you every day. And so I think we can carry that through and say, that's what Jason would do those things.
He absolutely did. I mean, I'm a bit of a tempo rubber sitting at my desk.
You do look stressed sometimes.
I do look stressed because I'm always working on, whatever, nonsense. And, trying to put the newscast together, et cetera, whatever. It doesn't matter. But when Jason would stop by me, he snapped me out of that for a second.
Right.
And got me to look up and say, oh, my goodness, you know what? The sun is shining somewhere. And it's not all doom and gloom. And he had a way to do that. He was a little bit of ray of sunshine, to borrow a weather sort of phrase. That's just the way he was. He would make your day feel a little brighter, a little better, because he walked through and as Molly said, made you feel seen for a moment, just to snap you out of whatever deep thought you were in at the moment or stress you thought you were dealing with. And he had an ability to not let that stuff get to him. Because this is a crazy job sometimes. There's a lot going on, especially, kind of what we're doing here tonight, talking a lot. These guys do every day in the weather department. They just ad lib all the time, and then we get to severe weather mode. They can be on the air for 2 hours straight, and he just kept keeping on. And it was amazing to watch that. I was always amazed to watch any of our weather people who can do that. That's a gift that is not easily to come by, and he would do it with just such ease. That he could stay on the air, manipulate all their equipment. It was just a skill and a talent that he had, and he just never seemed worried about it.
He didn't. And you said, okay, and I was sort of, poking you a little bit about saying sometimes you look stressed. Sometimes I look stressed. It's a very stressful job. This job can be very stressful. And Jason was around that all the time. All of us are like sometimes pulling our hair out, or I'm moving too fast or whatever it is. And he did make you stop. I mean, he made you pause and he looked at you in the eye, always right in the eye.
Right.
Always right in the eye. And he would stick out his hand, because sometimes I'd be like, Jason, we're friends. We don't need to shake hands. Like, we work together every day. And he would laugh and go, oh, this is Molly. It's just, I want to see how was your weekend and how you doing. And I mean, that never faltered, ever. And I just hope his wife Jillian and 4 kids know how much he was that person here with us every day. Every day. It did not matter what was going on in his day, didn't matter if he was busy, didn't matter if we looked like we didn't want to talk to anybody. He was going to approach us and make sure we felt a little better about ourselves. And he brought that to our WBTV family, to his job every day. Absolutely. And he also talked about them.
Yeah, all the
every
time,
day.
which was great.
Great. I mean, we know about his 4 kids and their interests and their hobbies and the soccer fields and the hiking he talked about and the skiing and the travel and just spending a lot of time together as a family, the 6 of them.
Well, and he asked about you first, though, right?
Yes.
He would always ask about you first, and
Always.
then, you know, the natural conversation would take back to how he's doing and everything like that. But yeah, he was just always out of his way to make sure that he was checking in, just checking in, you know. And I don't know, that's a gift. And it's like I said, a legacy that he's going to leave behind here at WBTV, and it's going to be just hard to get over that part of it.
We're still processing.
We are.
We're still processing. You don't expect to start processing on live TV
No.
about your friends, but
No.
we're processing.
So-
And again, thank you as a community for helping us go through, all of us. I mean, there's so many people in the newsroom right now. People have come in that aren't working today, people that aren't supposed to be here because, as Al Conklin said, our chief meteorologist, he heard the news and he said, I didn't know where else to go. I mean, it was like you're drawn to it. He got up at 2 a.m., he did the morning show, he went home. His family, he said, left for their Thanksgiving holiday. He was going to meet up with them tomorrow after the Thanksgiving Eve parade that WBTV has planned to air and do live. And he said, I just got that news. And I really, that stuck with me when Al said that, because you called me and we talked, and I said, I'm coming in. And Al said he didn't know where else to go, but he was going to come in. And so our whole family, as a WBTV family, is here. We're all here. You're seeing me and Jamie earlier. You saw John Carter and Abby Tedros, but we're all here behind us processing this together. So we really appreciate you as a Charlotte community, no matter what agency you're with or whether you ever knew Jason or not, or Chip or not. Thank you, because we are trying to figure this out live as we step forward with what to do next. With that said, we will have a 6 o'clock newscast. We're going to kind of take a reset in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what Molly's saying, all those messages, where we're seeing them, whether we respond to everyone individually, I don't know if we'll try to, certainly, but they mean something to us. They're helping us get through this really dark day at WBTV, and I'm sure those prayers and thoughts are going a long way to helping Jillian, Chip's wife, as well through this very, very difficult day, and that's what we're trying to do, is honor them the best we can. At the top of the 6 o'clock hour, the awful news today. WBTV has lost 2 of our colleagues after Sky3 crashed next to Interstate 77. It took the lives of meteorologist Jason Myers and Sky3 pilot Chip Tayag. This is news we never thought we would ever have to report on. It is a heavy day here at WBTV as our family is grieving alongside Chip and Jason's families.
And tonight we're hearing stories of Chip's heroism guiding the helicopter away from the interstate to avoid hitting anyone. Our anchor Alex Giles was one of our first reporters on the scene. And Alex, you're the one who heard from Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police about that. He joins us live.
Yeah, Alex, recap some of the details that we got from CMPD today.
Well, Jamie, I'm at a fire station, a Charlotte fire station off Clanton Road here in Charlotte. And CMPD held a media briefing here earlier in the day. And to be completely transparent, all of us at WBTV and some other folks in local media, we knew at the time that it was WBTV Sky3 and 2 of our colleagues that were on board the helicopter when it crashed. But the police chief wanted to make clear that when he was updating us earlier that he wasn't going to say who the helicopter belonged to or who was on board. He just wanted to give some basic information about the situation. And obviously saying, a helicopter has crashed, traffic way backed up on I-77 South because of this. Federal investigators are going to be brought in to handle the investigation, and we're going to do our part as the local authorities to try and keep the peace with all the traffic in the area. The chief even talked about how our pilot, Chip, did his best to make sure that that helicopter did not hit the interstate. Take a listen.
We're supposed to be spending time with our loved ones, and tragically there are 2 people involved in this crash that will not be going home and will not be spending the holidays with their families. So it's a huge loss, tragic loss, and it's just something that you can't put into words to try and offer condolences to the families. I do ask that we do pray for the families of both of these victims. It's going to be a difficult holiday season.
Again, a very sympathetic message there from Chief Johnny Jennings of the CMPD. And as I noted, he did mention that Chip, our pilot, kept the helicopter from hitting the interstate. He even called those actions heroic. So it's a very somber day across the city. Reporting live, Alex Giles, WBTV on your side. Back to you.
Alex, I feel like we should ask everybody, how are you doing?
it's just hard to believe. I think a bunch of us who have been talking here out in the field are just in a mix of shock and grief, and then listening to the beautiful words you and Jamie have had to share about Chip and Jason. That's been awesome to hear, and to know how much they were loved, and to think about the good times, even though we're filled with overwhelming sadness at the same time. It's just a mix of emotions and just really disbelief. But we're getting through it, and that's where the team and the family mentality comes into play.
Well said. Alex Giles, we love you. Hang tight. We'll keep talking. We are hearing from people, as Alex, you know, who were just yards away from the helicopter crash today.
Yeah, one woman echoing what CMPD said about Sky3 pilot.